clever quip going into intro that ends with the phrase, "'Cause I love you, baby." Welcome. It is Sunday, March 31st, 2024, 40 days after the beginning of Lent, I think is how that works, which can only mean one thing. It must be the Trans Day of Visibility today. And that's correct. The only important thing that's happening today. And I'm mostly saying that to annoy people who are already annoyed and so easily annoyed.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's just, and it's fun that that's the only one they're complaining about, because today's actually several holidays. March 31st always is. For example, if your favorite hard drive might be on sale today, because I'm not kidding, it is National Backup Your Hard Drive Day. So, but they're upset that their date, which changes year to year, has happened to come on a day that was already declared a holiday years ago. And obviously next year it will be a different one. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well. Actually, I went after somebody yesterday for complaining because the Biden administration released a statement about in the International Transgender Day of Visibility, which is today, as you mentioned. And they were like, how dare the Biden administration do this and make this announcement and put this on Easter? And I'm like, you idiot. Easter moves around based on the Jewish calendar and the state of the moon and can be anywhere from like March 21st to April 20th or something like this. It's, it's in that time frame because it's the first full moon after the equinox. And maybe if you didn't base your holiday on some mumbo jumbo, and actually tried to go with an actual date, that'd be good. Now, I know. For the ones out there that are getting ready to write in to say, no, we do that because this is how the Jewish calendar works, and this is so that we're celebrating it at the same time. The calendar that you're using, Matt, is an arbitrary creation that is mistaken, and March 31st isn't the same I know all that. I'm just saying March 31st has been my birthday for 55 years, or actually it's the date on which we celebrate because I only had one birthday, and that was back in 1969. But it was wild calling them out for all that, watching them get all upset. How dare they be visible? And I got an extra joke out of it this morning, because I'm almost always up before Arden. And so I came upstairs after I heard her rustling around, and she was in the bathroom naked and getting ready to put on clothes. And I was like, no. Today is the Trans Day of Visibility. You need to not wear clothes today.
That's good. But all I'm hearing is that Matt has had the audacity to declare today, of all days, Easter, his birthday. How dare you make such a declaration and try and take away from the importance of this holiday, which, as everybody knows, is the day that Jesus found all the eggs. Every one of them, found them all. I'm appalled and shocked you would do that. Hey, everybody, we'll get to taking calls here in a second, but today is the last day, and we'll pretend, I don't know, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I feel like I want to have energy for this that I don't. Maybe it'll come, but Matt and I do both have merch designs in the store. I'll show them to you right now.
I actually signed one.
These are them. I didn't know that was a thing, and why is that broken? Okay, here we go. These are them. Mine is the one here on the left, Unafraid to Disappoint Daddy, magical or otherwise. Matt's is the one there on the right, bearing a striking resemblance. Obviously also Easter themed, as anybody can clearly see. Don't ask me to explain it. And whichever one has had more sales by the end of the day, and at some point, actually, I'm going to make a quick spreadsheet here while we do the first call, so I can more quickly update you all with the scores. But I think at this point we just, whoever wins, the loser will wear the other person's for their shows in the month of April. I think is what we came down to. It's a little
I got
fun,
a couple of
contest.
I got a couple of quick thank yous and other things to do. For those who aren't aware, I flew to Tampa, and Friday night before last, I did a debate on the resurrection. So first of all, it was funny hearing what some people said. There was someone, some atheist, who was commenting saying, "I'm not watching it on the church's stream. I'm watching an atheist restream of it because I don't want to give the church any views." That's fine. You watch wherever you want, but please stop saying stupid stuff like that publicly because you make us all look bad. Yeah. Because the fact of the matter is, Crosswind Church in Tampa, which I am not going to vouch for in any way, arranged this debate. And without it, it wouldn't have happened. Now, it happened in part because J. Mike, who's been a guest on these shows before and will again, and I just talked to him briefly in messages, is friends with both Than, my debate opponent, and John, who was the moderator. They arranged all of this. I actually went to the head pastor just before the debate to say, "Hey, are you guys going to be doing any sort of offering or collection or anything like that?" And he's like, "Nope, we want to make sure this is just free and available for everybody. We don't want to do anything like that." They were basically saying there's enough problems with churches asking for everybody's money all the time and everything else. And I was like, well, would it bother you if during my opening I said, "Hey, if this is the kind of thing you guys appreciate, you can, throw them a few dollars," whatever. He's like, "I'd rather you didn't. We don't want anything remotely like money in this." And I was like, okay, cool. And instead I just said, "Hey, if this is the type of thing you enjoy, let them know so that we can potentially do more stuff like this. Watch whenever, however you want to. But let's acknowledge that there are not that many Christian churches that are likely to bring in anyone, let alone one of the more popular debaters, to stand in their church and explain to them why what they believe is probably bullshit. That's just not likely to happen. I was given no instructions. They didn't limit me. For anybody who's like, "But Matt, you didn't say fuck once through the whole debate." I'm like, yes, and you can go to most of my debates and see that that's the case. But they didn't put any kind of limits on me at all. They didn't say, "You can't say this" or "Don't say this." Nothing. We just sat down, had a good conversation. I'll be putting up a debate review about it very soon. There were a lot of there were probably more atheists in the audience at their church than there were theists. So basically, they brought me to town so that people could come down and say hi and listen and then publish the debate. And good for them. I had a great time. There was one person who very kindly brought me a gift of a bottle of tequila, but I was unable to bring it home with me, so I let them keep it. But thank you very much for that. It was very, very generous, even though we didn't get to do it. And some people had bought T-shirts, including the NBOSS shirt that Jimmy just showed. And I managed to sign that. There was the Tampa Women Without Religion group who showed up for the event. I think they got like 3 new members out of it. So overall, this was a win across the board. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time. And we all got along. We went out to dinner afterwards, me and a group of primarily Christians. And I look forward to doing more things with Than. So thank you to everybody that was involved and everybody who showed up. You guys made it a great success. And I thought it went well.
I like that. I like all those sentiments. I often get a little bit of shit for saying things like "be friends with bigots" and stuff like that, because obviously adding the nuance of like, if you yourself, like, don't put yourself in danger, obviously, if it's that sort of, but so many people's journey, including mine included, basically being tolerated by people who I didn't deserve to be tolerated by. And I value that very, very much, and want to be that for other people too. So, anyway, it's all. But
if there are any theists out there, who want to call in and give some alternate defense of the resurrection, the Easter story claims, or try to reconcile those things, by all means, it's 720-619-2288. We are screening calls in the moment. We've got at least one theist ready to go. And Theus will always have priority on this show.
That's true. I do have the scores. I'm just plugging them in so we can have a look here, and it's pretty funny, if I do say so. So currently in the lead is myself by 1 item. And so if you go and you buy literally anything, any item, so the current scores right now are 43 to 42. And it's funny because a lot of times it'll be like if you just go and you look through the orders, it'll be there's a couple of times where people are like, oh, well, I'll just get a couple of stickers. I'll get a couple of, but these are the current to try and up the score. That is the current score, 43 to 42. So go to lionmerch.com. And if we have time today, so there is tonight at 6 o'clock, which is roughly 4 hours from now, minus the 11 minutes we're already in. Matt will also be doing a Zoom with patrons, a birthday Zoom. What an exciting time. This month was both of our birthdays. That's why we're both doing shirts and stuff. That's why I did a Zoom a couple weeks ago. He's doing his today. So go check that out. If we have time today, we'll read messages that come in with the merch stuff there too. But yeah, go check it out and up the ante, up the score.
Hopefully all it means is that everybody was waiting for today for the Matt birthday extravaganza to go buy like 75 of my t-shirts so that I win by a lot. That's what needs to happen. If you're in chat and you were looking for a way to say thank you, Matt, for all the wonderful things that I'd like to pretend you did, even though you've never done anything worthwhile, all you have to do is go order yourself t-shirts or merch with that awesome NBoss face on there. I know the beard is smaller now on the shirt than what's actually on my face, but doggone it, we'll update it next year. That's right.
Well, I'm good to I'm doing a little bit of stuff on the side here. Actually, I'll go ahead and announce for people. I'm only doing this for the rest of today. This will expire at the end of the day, but I am just for funsies, just because honestly, at this point, I care more about us getting. It's fun to know our merch is out there. I love when people tag us and stuff. So I'm also putting a 10% off promo code on any of those products, and it's just going to be last day, LASTDAY. But you only know this if you hear it from the show. So only people who actually watch the show on Sunday will know this promo is available. So if you go to lionmerch.com and you buy any of mine or Matt's birthday merch and you use the promo code last day, you'll get 10% off. I just put that in for fun. That's our birthday present to you. All right, you're welcome to steer. You can pick the
sweet
call here.
Well, we're going to start off. Jason is a theist from Wisconsin who says he doesn't use pronouns. How do you do that, Jason? How do you avoid using pronouns?
Just don't use them, man. I don't subscribe.
Really?
Oh, excuse me. You just said I don't subscribe. That was a pronoun.
I is a pronoun.
I is, yeah. You just said I.
Anyway, guys, were you here to nitpick, or were you here to talk, or what?
Well, I mean, you're calling in to say that you would like to discuss a prophetic message from God about America, and I'm happy to discuss that. But we just tend to ask people if they have preferred pronouns, so that if we're talking to them or about them, I could say like, Jimmy, Jason was just saying this, and then I could just say he said, or she said, or they said. And it says here that instead of you offering your preferred pronouns, you just said you don't use them. And I don't know how anybody can not use pronouns. That's just weird. So I thought I'd ask.
Guys, call me anything that you want to call me. It doesn't matter. Like I said, I don't subscribe to this new age stuff.
That's the problem, Jason. There's nothing new age about pronouns. You learned about them in kindergarten. There's Schoolhouse Rock videos.
Okay. So,
I had a friend named Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. And so we say he because saying Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla is a little difficult.
Jason, you called us, though. It's like you walked into a doctor's office, they gave you a form, and you're complaining about one of the things they asked you for on the form. So it's funny because you're kind of complaining like we're making it political. You're the one who made it a political statement when you would have just been politely asked, how do you want to be referred to? Because no one can know if you're a man or a woman just by your voice, or believe it or not, just by your name. how would you like to be referred to? And instead of just participating with the question in good faith, you decided, and don't talk over me, you decided to make the political statement here, Jason. You were the problem. We didn't have to have this conversation. You could have just ticked the damn box on the form.
You cannot tell if I'm a man? You cannot tell if I'm a man? Are you serious?
You're right, Jason. I absolutely cannot, from your voice or your name, tell that you are a man. Yeah. Correct.
How many deep voice women do you know out there? Come on,
many.
Guys.
Lots of them. But instead of you sitting around here pretending that everything is obvious, you could actually educate yourself. But you could have just said that your preferred pronouns are he, him, and nobody would have said a fucking word to you about it. But you decided to make a statement, and now I'm calling you out and exposing you on your statement. Here, let me put you on. Hang on. I'm going to put you on mute. I'm exposing your monumental ignorance and your desire to make a statement about something that should be largely innocuous background information. And what's happened here is that's completely your desire to say that you don't buy into New Age stuff because you're too stupid to understand what pronouns are and you used them right away, is preventing you from delivering the prophetic message that you'd like to deliver that you think God has for America. So I'm going to unmute you. We're going to ignore the pronoun thing, and we're going to start all over.
Well, I have Jason. One more thing. I have one more thing before we start over. Also, I want to point out the irony that you appear to be from the what is a woman crowd, and yet don't know that the definition of man is not a person with a deep voice.
Deep voice,
Anyway, go ahead. We'll start over. Jason.
All right, so Jason's calling from Wisconsin and would like to discuss a prophetic message from God about America. Jason, what's the message and how do you know it's from God?
Okay, so guys, I'm a first-time caller. I'm calling to give a prophetic message from the Lord.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to put you on mute again. Hi, I'm going to take you off mute in just a second, Jason. I just asked you, what is the message and how do you know it's from God? And then you started talking about how you're a first-time caller with a message from the Lord. So let's try this again. Jason's calling from Wisconsin, and he'd like to discuss a prophetic message from God about America. Jason, what's the message, and how do you know it's from God?
Yes, I would like to discuss the message if you guys are allowed to.
Okay, Jason, I'm going to put you on mute again, and we're going to hold off for just a second. I don't need any preamble. I don't need any extra information. I just need you to answer the question you're asked. Because if you're going to be difficult, so am I. So here we go. Once again, Jason's a theist calling from Wisconsin who'd like to tell us about a prophetic message from God for America. Jason, what's the message and how do you know it's from God?
You know what? You're not allowing me to speak, so whatever. Piss off, retard.
Wow. Oh, we're so impressed. We're so impressed by Jason, who can't answer basic questions, doesn't know what the definition of man is, says he doesn't use pronouns, and then starts his objection with the phrase I, and then ends it with an ableist slur. Wow, you're so impressive, Jason. Oh, I gotta rub my nipples. I'm so turned on. Fuck you. Who gives a fuck? What a boring ass person you are.
For all the other theists who'd like to call in, please do. And please show that you have a better understanding about how conversation should go, about the basics of English language, how you don't need to toss out a slur, and how when asked a question, you have the mental capacity to process that question and answer the question you were asked without whining like a little bitch about how you didn't get to talk or how you're not into New Age nonsense or how you don't use pronouns when that has absolutely nothing to do. So evidently, there was no actual prophetic message from God. There was Jason wanting to blather on about something and not liking the fact that he couldn't do it the way he wanted to do it. All I did, Jason, on 3 separate occasions was say, what's the message and how do you know it's from God? And you wouldn't get to that. And then you left and took your ball and went home, which means whatever God you're advocating for picked the weakest possible representative. The next time you'd like to call, Jason, maybe pray and ask God what God wants you to say to us, because I don't think God could get it wrong, but you can. Just terribly, awfully. You are completely inept at this. If you'd like to call back, just go ahead and call back, Jason. And We won't even address your pronoun confusion, but I will still say, what's the message and how do you know it's from God? I'm sorry that those questions were too difficult for you. Happy Easter.
Hell yeah.
So
people in the live chat are using the pronoun he. Remember, Jason did not say he was his pronoun and to use whatever, so I would suggest we use the word but instead of a pronoun. It's nice, quick.
We should use neo pronouns for Jason, because I mean, if he's not into the New Age stuff, but he wants us to use whatever we want, then we should just go with Zer.
Zer will work. Hell yeah.
Zer was absolutely obnoxious. Although all my friends who use neo pronouns are probably a little pissed that I would use them to refer to Jason. But all right, we'll move on. There's still space open for theists for sure. Virgil in Texas, pronouns to she, her, wants to talk to us a little bit about nihilism. So welcome, Virgil. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Happy birthday, Matt, and happy Trans Awareness Day for Arden and whoever else is listening.
Thank you.
I'm just curious what your thoughts about nihilism are. Like, specifically, I know that you're a humanist, Matt. I'm not very sure what Jimmy identifies as in this regard. But the reason I'm curious about this is because I end up finding myself very drawn to nihilism. And I'm currently trying to create a new form of it, or at least trying to rehabilitate it in a way that doesn't really conform to the demonized form of it everybody seems to have in their mind when they think about nihilism. Why do y'all think it is so demonized?
You want to go first or me?
If you want to, go right ahead.
Yeah. So, Virgil, you should know before you go creating your own, there may already be one that you're thinking of. And also, there isn't an exclusivity. So while a person can be a secular humanist, it doesn't eliminate their ability to be a nihilist. So I call myself a universal nihilist. And this is sort of that concept of the acknowledgement of nihilism, that there is no grander purpose, there is no prescriptive purpose, apparently so. You can still remain a skeptic about it. And therefore, as a universal nihilist, I am capable of coming up with my own purpose and finding those things that work best for me. And so that's universal nihilism. What I think you're referring to is that most people mistake universal or nihilism in general for cynical nihilism. Where cynical nihilism is sort of a very pessimistic form. Nothing matters. Humans don't matter. Love doesn't matter. Nothing matters. There's no greater matter. And they think that everybody's just walking around super pissed off and depressed all the time. And not that I'm not capable of having nihilistic days like that, but I wouldn't define myself as such. And I don't know that I had less of them when I was a religious person either. Funnily enough. So anyway, so Virgil, I'm just letting you know that I am also a secular humanist and a universal nihilist, and they don't butt heads literally ever.
Yeah, the baseline that people think of generally when we talk about something being nihilistic or nihilism in general is that there is no intrinsic, externally imposed purpose in or from the universe or upon the universe. And I just think that's true. The problem that I have is the conclusions that people then draw from it, that because the universe has not, and nothing that we know of has or could dictate a purpose to my life, that therefore my life has no purpose or meaning, which is false. My life has whatever purpose and meaning I attribute to it. And so in my take on it, there's the simple classical nihilism, which is just a true fact, or apparently a true fact about the universe, that, absent a mind that ascribes value to something, there is no value. And without a mind to ascribe purpose or meaning, then there is no purpose or meaning. But my take is we are minds that do value and do put purpose and meaning on things.
I will say this. I've never heard a more negatively nihilistic phrase, in my opinion, than hearing religious people say things along the lines of, you trying to understand God would be like an ant trying to understand us. That seems like a much more negatively nihilistic view than than anything I've found out of more objective forms.
Anyway, that's where I'm at. What are you thinking, Virgil?
I think I agree with both of you, like, emphatically. The reason I've started functioning with my own version of nihilism is because when I talk about nihilism, everybody just negatively associates that, like with what you said, which is that cynical nihilism, which is like, like people assume that it automatically makes you a prenatalist and all of this other like edgy-ish style of stuff on top of it.
A prenatalist or an antinatalist?
Antinatalist is what I meant.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No worries.
And so, like, I call myself a naturalistic nihilist, which is the sense that the natural world is all that we have to work with. And once again, that nihilistic idea of there is no inherent purpose or meaning that is objective to what we bestow upon our own subjective experiences. And so, like, I do want to clarify my thing is that I do agree with secular humanism on, like, ethics and such, like, well-being is a very good place to base our morality off of. And so that I guess I also identify with, and they don't necessarily butt heads. So I'm sorry if I excluded one from the other, and I should have been more careful with my language.
You're fine.
But I value both of your input because honestly, the way that I see this get like tackled, it's almost like it's demonized simply because it entails an atheism almost. Because if there is no like objective, inherent, intrinsic purpose that the universe was made of, and via the universe because we spawned out of the universe, that we have no like objective inherent value besides what we bestow, if we could just like get around that, it might open people's minds to it a little bit more, that it is simply a state of accepting existence as is and nothing more. And yeah, I think that's pretty much.
I actually have a question that maybe Matt can answer, because I've never had a theist answer it to my satisfaction. Every theist I've ever met does consider God a thinking being. Therefore, if God is a thinking being, how would his issued morality to us, his mandated morality, not be subjective? It's of course it would be like if I force a dog to live some moral way, is the dog living objectively morally, or my subjective morality? I don't actually know how it becomes objective when you add a God to the mix.
So
I could try to apply my own answer here, which is just it wouldn't. It's sort of like it immediately goes to that might makes right sort of language. So as soon as it's like he is the most powerful, omnipotent, like whatever you could think of, the ultimate Superman that magic the universe out of gas, is that automatically makes him the arbiter of morality. Right. And his subjective becomes our objective because he's just simply more powerful. His power
so that would be
scaling
an
is off the
example
chart.
of a theistic explanation I wouldn't find satisfying.
So
Matt, do you know any?
From a theistic perspective, the general take on this is only one of basically two options. One is divine command theory, that God essentially states what is or isn't moral, which means it is subjective because it is derived from and contingent to that being's assessment. And the other one is an attempt on their part to dodge the consequences of that by saying, no, it's not divine command. It is God's very nature is the litmus for morality. And so it's not subjective. It's not contingent upon a mind. It is, you are either consistent with the nature of God, which is good and pure, or you are not consistent with the nature of God. And so rather than being subjective, there is an objective fact of God's nature, and you are either objectively in agreement with it or objectively not in agreement with it. And that's the best attempt that I've heard from them on how to avoid it being subjective, that it's not about God's thought, but God's character.
Which I then assume they reject if you go, great. So then secular humanism is an objective morality because you are either objectively doing that which benefits the well-being of humans or you are not. No?
Because is it objective in the sense of the evaluations, or is it objective in the sense of the standard? And in the sense of the standard, if they say that this is from God's nature, their view is that it's not from a mind, it is just what God's nature is. Whereas secular humanism, the standard comes from a mind, which makes it subjective and arbitrary. You can do an objective assessment. Like the example that I've used most of the time is the game of chess, because I obsessively play. I was literally playing just a few minutes ago. And the rules of the game were arbitrary. We just invented them. And that doesn't make it subjective, but it came from us. It's not like the universe had chess in it. We invented a game and we made rules, and we made arbitrary rules, and we changed those rules. But playing the game, and no, I'm not in any way a master. I'm bad, actually. But playing the game, every move you make can be evaluated objectively by determining, does it move towards the goal, which is to either win or not lose, or does it move farther from the goal? That's how you determine if moves are good or bad. So the assessment of your move as either good or bad can be objective, even though the rules of the game are ultimately arbitrary and the product of subjective thought. So there's the standard, and then there's the evaluation. And my position is that I don't know of any objective moral standard out there, but we can make objective moral evaluations by comparing the consequences of our actions to a particular goal. And this is where Sam Harris and I have both come under fire for the kind of pragmatic utilitarianism that we advocate for, because there is no imperative. There is no ought there. They're like, well, why should I care about well-being? And my answer is, I don't know why, but you do. And if you don't, you're particularly odd. But all we're saying is we're going to look at what we describe as morality and say, look at it in terms of well-being. If you don't want to look at it in terms of well-being, we have no moral imperative, no categorical imperative, no objective standard to say, you must care about well-being. All we're saying is, if you do, and it appears we all do, after that, we can then make objective assessments about actions with respect to those goals. But that's a long lecture to try to answer her question.
I feel like it, but I'm not going to make this go all day. I feel like it'd still be pedantically an objection to parts that didn't make it. The last part is the only one that I found compelling. The part, or that would be harder to go against, which was the basically the external reason to say you must. But I feel if I wanted to be a pedantic asshole to a Christian, I could continue. So that's what I do for a living, though. Don't need to do it more today. To a fake one. Virgil. Virgil, anything else before we move on?
Just one last thing, which Matt just brought up, and this is something that fascinates me, and I want to iron this out in my head. You mentioned how chess has objective moves, but the rules themselves are arbitrary and were subjectively constructed by men. So is there a way? How would we identify? How can I put this? It's the wording that's going to kill me on this. At what point do we apply objective in a way? Because I know that a lot of theists will say that there's a transcendental reality that these objective values come from. How do I try to get across explaining to them there is such a thing that is objective that isn't divinely laid out? Because when you go to chess, you said we have that objective, these things are objectively good. You can evaluate them, and these tend to be better moves than the other ones. So objectively, these are better moves to start with, vice versa, whatever. How do we apply that, for instance, morals? Does that also apply to our morals once we have them codified by a society, that there is some objective there, and that it is up to the individuals of a said society to overturn objective rulings? or to like integrate to rally for our understanding of morality and try to change things for the better or for the worse?
I don't understand your question. So when we're talking about
formulating it very terrible.
When we're talking about whether or not something's objective, it's just, is it subjective or objective? Is it the product of a mind, subjective? Is it a matter of opinion, subjective? Or is it an actual fact about the world, objective, that it is true, independent of what people think about it? And so the foundations of morality, there is no, as far as I'm aware, objective foundation for morality. But despite the arbitrary and subjective source for the foundations for moral views, it is possible to make objective assessments, just like you would for any other game. Is this consistent with the rules? Is this consistent with the goal? So I'm not sure what you're asking.
You just answered it quite succinctly. Like I said, I just had trouble wording it. So thank you very much, Matt and Jimmy, for taking my call. I won't hold you any longer.
Tight. See you later.
Awesome.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
All righty. All right. Let's do, we got one more theistic caller that just got in. And should be an interesting discussion. Then we'll get some announcements out of the way along with other stuff. But Dinah is calling from Ohio, pronouns as she, her, from an Amish family and trying to escape her religion and family. Hi, Dinah. How are you? Are you relatively safe right now to talk?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yes. I'm staying with a friend away from my family right now. I have 5 children, and they are not with me. They are with their father, but I am questioning my beliefs because I feel that God has not been answering my prayers. And my friend introduced me to you, and I've been watching many of your podcasts, and I am having difficulty because of this. My husband is very abusive, and I don't think that is right. Although the Bible says I should follow him, I'm struggling.
Yeah. So the first thing, I mean, I appreciate your bravery and honesty here. If you're in an abusive relationship, while I'm happy that you at least called us to talk, we're not the ones to talk to. And I'd recommend not only potentially reaching out to law enforcement, but also recoveringfromreligion.org and other organizations like that. We'll do our best to help you with what we can today by answering whatever questions we can answer. But what is it you're struggling with the most? I'm really sorry to hear about your situation. It's potentially terrifying.
My friend is helping me with the deal with my husband as far as the police. I have filed a report. The police in Ohio with the Amish, they don't like to involve themselves with the Amish, which is very disturbing. But I'm trying to get my children, but that's going to take time. But my friend is very helpful and has connections with the police, so that part is it is being dealt with.
Okay.
But I feel that I've started to feel that God is not listening to me, that He has not heard any of my prayers, and I'm beginning to think that He's not there for me, not there at all, and that's the part I'm struggling with. That there is no God, and how did I get to this point? My family is. I was not originally Amish. My family was Baptist. When I was 15, my father gave me to the Amish. And I didn't really have a choice. And now I am wondering about everything that I've been told my whole life.
So what do you think? Like, if you were to just stay stuck where you are right now, where it appears that God isn't replying to you, and perhaps never did, and perhaps doesn't exist, and you were to have to start working on the rest of your life with that recognition, how do you think that would impact your life?
I just don't want to do this anymore. I have a daughter who is autistic, and the Amish say it's Satan that has done this to her, and I need her to have help. So I need to break free of this. I need to live a life that I make decisions for us. Whether God is part of that or not, I don't care at this point.
Yeah. So, wow. So there's a lot here, Dinah, and I'm glad you called. First of all, you definitely need to know about recoveringfromreligion.org. There are people there to speak to. There's also the Secular Therapy Project. But I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe there's a Satan. I don't believe that illnesses and mental health conditions are in any way demonic or from Satan. I'm an advocate of science. And so I would love to see your daughter getting, proper medical treatment for the condition, because whether mental health issues came from Satan or not, we have a way to treat them that doesn't require anyone to think anything at all about Satan. So, I mean, even if I'm wrong about what the cause of something is, we can still treat the symptoms. I don't have any reason to think that there's a devil or a Satan or a God or anything else. I walked down and just did a debate on Friday in a Christian church. I didn't burst into flames. Nothing particularly bad happened. I've been sitting here for almost 20 years, saying some absolutely horrible things about various gods, because I find the various gods and the various religions to be some of the most vile, awful things that have spun from humans' minds. And I'm even if there's one of them that I'm wrong about, I must be right about the other ones, because every believer of one God is advocating that all the other ones are made up in humans. I'm just agreeing with all of them. I mean, apart from encouraging you to contact Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapy Project, I just want to say that I'm glad you're getting some help, and I'm glad you have a friend who's helping with this. And wherever you come out on the other side of this, whether you come out, you maintain your belief, or you find some new take on religion, or you depart it entirely, I just want to make sure that you and your daughter, you have 5 kids, so make sure that you and all of your kids are safe.
Yes.
And you don't have to rush anything. There's absolutely no requirement that you make up your mind today or tomorrow, or even if you do tentatively, that you can't change it later. If you are taking the steps to focus on your future and your kids' future in a way that is healthier and away from abuse, as much as it might disappoint me personally for you to end up in the Presbyterian church down the street, I'd rather you end up in the Presbyterian church down the street than continue in the situation that you're in. But apart from pointing you to resources like the ones I have, all I can do is, if you have specific questions, Jimmy and I can try to answer them. But the bigger things are to make sure that when your friends are helping you.
It's
what's
freedom
that?
From what?
Religion.
It's recovering from religion.org.
Okay, I'm writing that down. From religion. Okay.
Recovering from religion.org. You can chat with them online. You can actually call them as well. And they can point you to the resources you need. And their job, by the way, they're not there to talk you out of your religion. This is for people who are in your exact situation, to have somebody to have a conversation with, where you're not necessarily, you're not on a show where there's everybody's, eavesdropping and listening in. You're not, nobody's going to recognize your voice when you're on with Recovering from Religion. There's not going to be issues like that. It's just a good opportunity to talk to somebody and to talk to people who've been in this similar situations before, or have worked with people who've been in situations like that before. But for today, apart from pointing to those resources, I mean, Jimmy and I will try and answer questions you have, but largely, I think you're on the right track by escaping that, filing a police report, relying on friends to help you kind of rebuild a little bit. And just give yourself permission to take the time you need, because if in fact there is a God out there, and that God loves you and loves your kids, and isn't answering you, and isn't giving you anything in your time of need, then you shouldn't worry about that God, because clearly they've got something more important to do if they do exist, and they're not that they don't really care about you right now, or they want you to do this on your own. And so whatever kind of rationalization it takes, you have to give yourself permission to be honest with yourself and say, you know what? I keep asking God and I keep getting nothing. Maybe nobody's listening. Maybe it's time for me to step up and do the right thing for me and my family.
It's been 10 years and I have had no answers, and I feel like there's just nothing there. No one is responding. And I have to do something, and especially for Sarah, because the situation is bad for her, and she's seen no doctors, and I know what's wrong with her, but my husband will not see that, and she's not functioning like a normal child, so I must do something.
Yeah, and I'd also caution you, I know you say you know what's wrong with her and everything else. Be very, very careful with that. None of us should be armchair diagnosing anybody. I'd highly recommend that no matter what you think is going on with your daughter, that you get her to talk. The Secular Therapy Project, seculartherapy.org, is started and kind of runs alongside Recovering from Religion in some aspects. They can put you in touch with a secular therapist and someone who can potentially help your daughter as well, because while you may be correct about the diagnosis, you could also be incorrect. And all we want to do is make sure that if there's something that needs treatment there, that a certified, trained expert takes care of that diagnosis and comes up with a treatment plan for it. Because if we didn't
see a doctor, I don't know exactly what's wrong with her, but I want her to see a doctor. I'm tired of them praying over her and telling us that Satan is taking charge of her.
Dinah, I just looked it up for you just to try and I was pretty sure Ohio had it too, because I think most states do, but you can go to your county office and file what's called a motion for emergency custody. You write a detailed statement of what your situation is, why you think the custody needs to be enforced immediately, and usually you'll have an emergency hearing within 24 hours.
Where was that? For what?
It says that you're supposed to go to your county office, but if this might be more useful to tell your friend. I don't know what your relationship with the internet is, but if you just Google Ohio emergency custody, you'll quickly find the information that you need, and there's even like lawyers who can help you file that as well.
My friend is willing. My friend is very willing to help me, but he does not know where I am, and he does not know her. So
sure,
I have to be careful.
Sure, yeah. And it sounds like you said you've done some sort of contacting with, but very detailed police reports of abuse. And frankly, I would be going back and reporting your father also for apparently giving you away at 50. I mean, I'd be everything that could be an abusive situation. I would get documented, because all of it may become relevant when there is eventually a hearing for custody. So literally documenting every single thing.
Pennsylvania, my father, that was in Pennsylvania.
Sure, but it still establishes. So that would be specifically establishing. First of all, what might be considered a type of trafficking, and is part of the organization that you were a member of, and so it being a relevant detail when they're establishing custody and what your history of abuse is and their history. Again, I don't know where you are in your journey out, but what you're describing is that's not a normal thing to give a teenager away to a church.
Yeah, It's pretty typical of the Amish community.
Yes, they're a nightmare. They're a nightmare religion for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate it. I just felt the need to call in and get a little bit of advice. My friend encouraged me to, so I'm glad I was able to get through. And happy birthday, Matt!
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am honored.
And our email information is also in the description of every episode. So if you don't mind, if it's not too much, and if it doesn't jeopardize in any way whatever legal proceedings are coming up, if you have to wait until after them, we understand. But keep in touch and let us know what's going on. We'd want to hear follow-ups and stuff.
I will do that. Thank
Great.
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dinah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Little update before we jump into calls. As far as the score goes, I will say my feelings are a little bit hurt. Here I give you all a 10% coupon. By the way, that coupon's still active just for today. I'm not writing it down anywhere. Only for people who are watching, who can hear me say it before the 24 hours are up. A 10% off with the coupon last day on linemerch.com. But here is the updated scores. And when I say I'm a little bit hurt, Matt has jumped ahead to 50 things, and we consider any sale a point. So any if you bought the buttons, if you bought the stickers, whatever, any sale. Now there is a 5-pack of buttons with the Not Unafraid to Disappoint Daddy shirts, but that's only one because it's one product. Yeah. Anyway,
it's unfortunate. But I want to say, to the people who went and bumped the needle in my direction a little bit, thank you for hurting Jimmy.
Yes. Yeah. That's what's important here.
That's the only goal. Let's hurt Jimmy just a little bit.
And I had another one. What was the other update I was going to give? I don't remember.
I know. So first of all, while Jimmy's thinking of that other update, those who know us and those who tune in regularly, first of all, thank you guys for coming back so many times and contributing and getting merch, but also just being here in the chat, because we talk about recovering from religion, and we will be doing some joint efforts with them coming up.
Yep.
And I'll let Jimmy do the announcement on that. But I hope that people see, not just, when I have Daryl on, or when we're doing a fundraiser for recovering from religion, or when one of the RFR volunteers calls in to talk about the calls they have. Dinah's call is, I think, probably typical of what many of the volunteers are going to deal with quite frequently at recovering from religion. We are not, neither Jimmy nor myself are mental health experts. We're not counselors. We're probably the wrong people to talk to about a good many of those things. On the other hand, it is very important that people that Dinah know she's not alone. And for the thousands of people out there that are in similar situations to Dinah, to know that they're not alone either. And there are resources you can reach out to. And so while I know people are like, oh my gosh, when are we going to just get another theistic caller on so you guys can pwn them and send them on their way? No, we produce a lot of shows here on the line, covering a lot of different things. For example, tomorrow is going to be an episode of Skeptalk. Tuesday is going to be an episode of Chewed Gum. Wednesday is going to be an episode of The Hang Up. Thursday is going to be an episode of the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And then in addition to those, Jimmy's added Cause I Wanna's, just did one Friday night, Sunday show after dark. And we are expanding doing it so we can see when are we getting the most callers and the most calls of what type? Because if it turns out, even though I haven't discussed this with Jimmy, so he's hearing my thoughts here for the first time. If it turns out that Friday afternoons are just the perfect time to get people calling in for advice, then it seems smart to perhaps tailor a show to giving out advice on Friday afternoon. And if it turns out that, Sunday afternoon is not the actual best time to get theists to call in, then maybe the Sunday show's focus on theism gets moved to whatever day is better for that. Now, right now, it seems that Sunday is, in fact, the best day to get the theists to call in, and I suspect that'll continue. But all we're trying to do here is get more and more content out to help more people on more issues from different perspectives. And so huge thank you to Dinah for, first of all, being brave enough to call in and let us know what's going on. And I hope she and her children get the help they need.
Yeah. So the things I was going to announce. So first of all, in relation to, because we kept bringing it up, we are doing our next big annual RFR charity stream on May 4th. And the night before, Matt Forrest and I will do a little pre-show like I did solo this last year. See if we can't have a little fun the night before. See if we can't even close the donation goal. That's what my true hope is. Like, what if we did? But this year we're going to try and raise $35,000 for Recovering from Religion. The event for which will go live tomorrow. Donations, people will be able to start donating tomorrow. And Matt has said unless we hit $50,000, he's actually retiring from call-in shows, which I thought was wild and crazy to say, but he promised. And so, you guys better donate. And I'm trying to think of which direction would help more. He will retire or won't retire if we hit 50K. Y'all decide. Whichever one
makes you more likely to donate.
That's
the one that Jimmy wants you to think I said.
Yep. And then as far as shows go, I think within the next 24 to 48 hours, we'll have the first episode of Duologues announced. I'm just waiting for confirmation from the person that I have issued the challenge to. And I think that it will be myself versus somebody who I think everybody's going to love. I'm actually purposely making sure that it's a person that I actually really like, and try and model the what I think the difference between us and other debate shows will be, though it won't always be between two people who really like each other. Just this sort of idea of a debate show that is actually focused on addressing the audience and not trying to make the other person look stupid necessarily. Let them do that to themselves if they so desire, though.
And also,
anyway, go ahead.
Because we have the tech for it, we can always do a more standard debate format whenever we want. Yeah. So, for example, William Albrecht, who was on the inaugural episode of End Boss, which we'll be getting some updates to the format a little bit, maybe extended slightly. But for those people who are like, oh, I really just wanted to see a debate, I would be happy because William was wonderful and gracious and understood the format and did a good job. If William wants to come back and actually just have a standard 2-hour plus debate on the bodily ascension of Christ or whatever topic he picks, I'd be happy to do that. And the same with other people. So if you're out there and you have someone that you'd like to see in a debate, they can apply, and even they can use the link at qnaline.com/ what is it for the, there's a debate link at the top of the page.
Yeah.
But if it turns out that what they're asking debate isn't suitable for End Boss or Duologues or any of the other things that we're actually working on, we can always just do a regular debate as well. What I don't want to ever happen is the thing that I'm seeing with the Jerry Springer Debate Club, where random know-nothing steps, with a crappy webcam in their parents' basement has decided to debate whether or not hashtag all lives matter or hashtag the earth is flat or hashtag women aren't equal to men or whatever stupid, ridiculous thing that they're going to do. Because the problem with having a debate channel is that you have to keep finding people to debate, which means eventually you get to the point where you scrape the bottom of the barrel and you'll take anybody and any topic and you become something no longer worth watching. We're not a debate channel. We're a discussion and education channel. And so debates can happen when they're right. We don't need to have a debate every Tuesday and Friday where nobody's watching and nobody's learning and no subject is being serviced in a responsible fashion.
Maybe I'm being a bit egotistical here. I will say once you all, I think Duologues is going to be a big hit, and I think William might even want to do specifically Duologues. I think that I'm very excited for it. I'm giddy with it to the point that I finally decided. Originally, I wasn't going to put myself on the first one, but if I'm able to get the person who I want to get, and I think that probably will happen, I'm going to put myself on. I don't like debate. I don't like debating that much, but I'm excited for it.
You ready for the next caller?
Wait, I think I had one more. Oh, also starting in April, we are going to add a second encore episode. I want to get people used to it now. Every Sunday, we will, starting in April, have a Sunday show after dark, and that will be at 7 p.m. on Sunday Central Time. So 2 p.m. is our current Central Time show. Some 5 hours later gives, in case it's any, if Matt and I are repeating, gives us a couple of hours to recoup if we come back. If it's not us,
I was like, what if we're not done by 7?
Well, we always stop. We try to stop by 5 to not step on Aron's toes with his Book of Mormon reading. Today, obviously, we've got the patron thing, which is going to step on. And I'm going to go to bed as soon as the show's over. But anyway, Dual Logs will be this month also. So those are the new things to look forward to this month. I'm stoked for it. And be ready when you see the event. If you already know you want to donate, or you want to donate in April and in May, donations will begin tomorrow when you see the event for the RFR stream go up. I'm ready.
Sweet. All right. In that case, everybody, welcome John from Texas, pronouns are he, him, who wants to explain to us about searching for God being done with your heart and not your mind. So, John, welcome to the Sunday show. You're on with Matt and Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hello, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Cool.
I want to say, I think there is, I think you can agree with me that there's a difference between wisdom and intelligence, right?
Okay.
Or no? Do you disagree with
I think
that,
we
or
could have a long philosophical discussion, and that ultimately we would say, when I say intelligence, I mean this, as opposed to when I say wisdom, I mean this. But I can't imagine how this will inform our God question.
I think, okay.
In the same way, John, I'd say that there's probably a difference between wisdom and intelligence, in the same way there's a difference between book smarts and common sense, or having knowledge and knowing how to apply knowledge, with those being slightly different skills. Exactly. And so maybe, something along those lines. I don't know how it's relevant, but go ahead.
Well, I think in academia, in the society we live in, we like to put all of our eggs in like this intelligence basket, quote unquote, and we fail to realize the wisdom and like the knowledge that has been passed down through generations, through verbal, like,
well, now you're bringing up a new thing, because I'm fine with the difference between knowing facts and being able to apply those facts, or having a skill to do so, and I'm fine with gaining wisdom. But the notion that there's wisdom that's been passed down, I don't know how or why that's relevant, because a lot of the supposed wisdom that's been passed down is a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of hooey. It's a bunch of old wives' tale that aren't true, and we've revised a bunch of them. So let's get to whatever this searching for God thing is, because John, we're going to disagree.
Yeah, I was just going to add, so far, the way you had asked if we would agree there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom, and so far, all I see is a difference between the way you would use the word wisdom and the way I would use the word wisdom.
I mean, I agree with Matt when he said one is just having the knowledge, and the other one's wisdom's the ability to apply it. That's like the definition of wisdom.
And usually when I'm talking about... Go ahead.
And would we agree then that what we're describing as wisdom is not in any way determined by how long humanity has known something or who passed it down?
Yeah, like I said, I think wisdom is a special kind of truth that only can be done by using your heart. And it leads to God. It leads
this is where you absolutely lose me when you say that there's a special kind of truth. There is only truth. Something is either true or it's not. There's not special kinds of truth. And my heart is a muscle that pumps blood. My heart doesn't do anything with respect to truth.
Okay. I shared my thing. I'm not trying to argue with you. Like you said, you don't want to debate. I don't want to strong man you or like manhandle you.
John,
yeah.
When did I say we didn't want to debate? And why are you calling a call-in show and saying you don't want to argue when that's what the whole show's about?
You a second ago, you were like, debates are like lowbrow, and I don't want to debate with nobodies. And I'm not here to debate either.
No, John. No, John. That's not at all what I said. But are you going to talk about the thing you wanted to talk about, which is what is this search for God that you're talking about, and how can we do it?
The search for God is the thing you've been on your whole life. Like this whole like arguing whether God exists or not. Like this search for why we came into existence and the purpose of life. Like this, those are ultimate questions that lead to God.
How do you know they lead to God?
We talked about this before. It has to do with infinity, like this concept of infinity, but
yeah, I remember, John.
A lot of people can't grasp.
No, John, you can't grasp. I remember you. You're the one who can't grasp the concept of infinity, and that the idea that finite can contain infinites. No. You're the one who can't.
Can we stop with? I would like to understand this, John. You're talking about a search for God, and you just asserted that something leads to God, and so I'm saying, how do you know that? How do you know that when we're looking for the explanation for why there's something rather than nothing, it leads to God? How do you even know what God is?
Well, if you can comprehend the concept of God that everyone has been talking about for all of history.
Okay, I'm going to mute you. And because it's my birthday, I'm going to give you a present. I highly suggest that you think about the question you're being asked and answer that question, and stop trying to do this if you can't comprehend blah, 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 and stop presenting generalizations asserting that everybody has been talking about the same thing when they talk about a God concept, which is demonstrably false. It is absolutely not true that everybody who's discussed a God concept is talking about the same thing. So, John, I'm asking you, what is your God concept, and how do you know that it's real, that it points to something actual? That's my question.
I'm
going to eat chocolate.
Is a fractal being, and we are like this direct reflection of or image of that thing, and God shows himself through everything.
What is a fractal being?
A fractal being? Well, fractal being is a thing that we are. We are fractal, like everything that exists in reality.
Okay, John, I'm going to mute you again. When I ask you to define something, and you just say a fractal being is a thing that we are, do you think for half a second you have provided anything close to exposition on the concept when you say a thing that we are?
Okay, let me be more specific then. A fractal is...
No, John.
Okay.
I asked a very specific question. Do you think that when you say a thing like we are, that you have done anything at all to explain the concept?
Well, I didn't get to finish talking. See, this is why
John,
we're actual moderators.
John, the question that I've asked you twice now is, when you say a fractal being is a thing that we are, do you think for one fucking second you have done anything to expand that concept towards clarity? How's that?
I was speaking. I was on,
yes or fucking no, John. Words. Yes or no?
No, because you're
Shut up. Shut up. Why did I have to ask you the same yes or no question 3 fucking times before you said no? That's a real problem, John. I'd love to have a good conversation where I could perhaps get to some sort of clarity and understanding of what it is that you're talking about, because largely it sounds like fucking gibberish. And so when I ask you, please explain this term, and then you start with an explanation that provides absolutely nothing substantive at all, and I ask you, do you think you provide anything substantive? Why does it take 3 times to get you to acknowledge that you did nothing? So, John, for the final time, what the fuck is a fractal being?
Fractal being is a thing that directly relates to a pattern that is self-repeating, and it continues to make that same pattern, regardless if you're zooming in or out. There's this repeating pattern that.
No, John. No, John. You've described a fractal, but not a fractal being.
Yeah, so we are a direct reflection of God. God is that fractal. God is the great picture, and we are a little...
Okay, John, I'm going to mute you again. First of all, you don't get to assert that we are a direct reflection of God. We haven't gotten to the point where you've even defined God. And I'm not going to let you distract this into then me asking you, how do you know we're a reflection of God? Because we could be a reflection of God, whether we're fractal beings or not. When I asked you, what the fuck is a fractal being? And all you did was define fractal from one perspective. You didn't tell me anything at all about what a fractal being is. So I'm going to go back on my word when I said that I was asking you for the last fucking time. And I'm going to unmute you, and I'm absolutely going to be asking you for the last time ever for the history of this world to define fractal being. And if you fail, I will ban you from the show. How's them? You like that? What's a fractal being, John? And how do you know that a fractal being actually exists?
Okay, fractal beings are things that exist in more than one dimension. They're like multi-dimensional beings. That's what a fractal being is, and it's directly related to a greater thing that is God. How do I know this? Because I came to the conclusion, like I have observed things and then drawn conclusions. Like I can't give you anything better than my observation.
Okay, John, you are now banned from the show. Goodbye. Don't ever bother calling again. I'm going to block your phone number. Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye. Let me try this really, really quickly before we move on to some others, because we don't have any more theist callers right now. We just got a couple of atheist callers, and I want to make sure we take them, especially since one of them's been on hold for a little while. When you say that a fractal being is a thing that directly relates to a pattern that is self-repeating, that's just a kind of loose description of a fractal, one where somebody who doesn't truly understand the mathematics behind a fractal, doesn't understand fractals in a broad sense, that's as if you saw a picture of a fractal and were trying to describe it. But when you say a fractal being is a thing that exists in more than one dimension, well, okay, I have length and width and depth. Oh, no, that's not what you meant by dimension. Yeah, I know, John, because you are really bad at actually describing things. Something that exists in more than one dimension that directly relates to a greater thing. So that doesn't add anything at all of clarity. What's a greater thing? What the hell do you mean by a greater thing? So a fractal being is something that exists in more than one dimensions and directly relates to a greater thing. And you know this. I can't believe I typed this and saved it. You know this because you came to the conclusion because you had observations and came to a conclusion. I could sit here and mock you mercilessly for the next 2 hours, John, about how absolutely devoid of substantive content anything you've ever said on this show is. I could play that clip of how what you've said has made us all stupider just for listening to it. The problem is you might have some condition that keeps you terminally disconnected from reality. And I don't want to just sit here and mock someone who's struggling with some difficulty processing things. If that's not the case, my apologies. If it is the case, which by the way, I have another apology. If it is the case, then you don't have any business calling here. But when we're asking you to describe something, and the best you can do after multiple attempts and redirects and clarifying questions is to say that a fractal being is a thing that exists in more than one dimension that directly relates to a greater thing, and that you know it because you made observations and reached conclusions. Stop wasting my motherfucking time. You are not equipped to have conversations on any of this stuff. Also, last week on the Hang Up, there was a caller. I I, at about the 1 minute 19 mark, I think, was giving a hypothetical. And I said something along the lines of, if someone called in and told you that their only proof of something was X, and that's when the caller interrupted me, as I was clarifying and changed what I said from their only proof to their only evidence. And so in my brain, I hadn't even said the word proof. Then this person said, I didn't say proof. And what I meant when I said I didn't say proof in response to them was that I wasn't accusing them of saying the word proof. I was saying, if you were in my position and somebody called in and this was their only evidence. However, he accused me of saying the word proof, and I was like, I didn't say the word proof. I absolutely did say the word proof in that hypothetical. And so for that, I unreservedly apologized to that caller for saying I did not say the word proof, when in fact I did say the word proof. In the spirit of the conversation, I did not accuse them of saying that there was proof. I was constructing a hypothetical, and everything else about the call stands on its own merit. But that person can call back and get a direct apology for me saying I didn't say proof when I absolutely did say proof, just not in the context of that discussion. So I have nothing else on that, Jimmy.
I mean, on John, at one point I was thinking, if I wanted to be intellectually condescended to by somebody I'm smarter than, I'd just have Jared from Kentucky call back. But I don't know if you remember Jared from Kentucky, but he gave it another shot this last Friday.
I don't, but I also...
God guy.
The thing is, for this, I just apologize in general. I've done these shows for 20 years, and most of the calls feel very similar to me. And so it will probably take someone calling in multiple times before I get to the point where I recognize the voice and remember past conversations, unless there's something that stands out about it. And because most of the calls, like, I don't remember the name of the person we were just talking to.
John.
If calls with John, I don't hang on to, because there's nothing substantive there. There's nothing in there that is remotely edifying, educational, or entertaining. And so it's like that call will be out of my mind by the time I am eating dinner later.
Jared from Kentucky was the triune God guy who's a presuppositionalist that tries to advanced philosophy speak above you, and then if you ask for any clarification, will condescendingly try to indicate that you are having problems keeping up with them, essentially. And
that was every time I asked a question for clarification, it's, don't you know what this is?
Probably.
Yeah, one of the things that people like that need to understand is that even if I know what you're saying, believe it or not, sometimes I might ask you to clarify, because we have an audience of thousands of people who are watching this, and I don't assume that they all know. And unlike a number of my theist interlocutors in debates, I don't care to bore the audience to tears by talking over their heads. Matter of fact, one of my favorite moments of any debate I've ever done, JT Eberhard and I did a team debate against, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the one guy's name that I like and only remember the guy that I don't like. John, I've forgotten his last name. We've debated several times. He's a nice guy. I like him just fine. And his partner for that debate was Sloan Lee. And Sloan is probably the second most arrogant individual I've ever debated after Dr. Egnor. But Sloan did this. This is my moral argument, and I've evaluated all possible objections and found them wanting. And Sloan thinks he's absolutely smarter than everybody else. And so he starts going into some incredibly dense philosophical jargon and references that the overwhelming majority of people aren't going to know anything about. And I like to make things approachable. If I have any expertise at all, it is taking complex subjects and making them so that anybody can understand them. And I'll kind of half joke that that's what I had to do for me to understand them, which it's already an issue. So he's sitting there, and it feels like he's wanting to just talk over everybody's heads to show how much smarter than everybody else he is. And I'm not without some ego.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell I was going to let people leave there thinking Sloan was actually smarter than I am. And so Sloan and I started basically measuring philosophical penises right in front of everybody. And JT Eberhard interrupted after a moment, after all of the audience's eyes glazed over, which I knew was going to happen. And JT was like, hang on, I'm just a music major. Can we bring this back down to something that I can understand? And the audience went nuts and gave him a massive round of applause. And it's because the overwhelming majority of people do not dig in on these subjects and have this esoteric and very specific jargonized understanding of these things. And so when we're doing shows like this, when I'm asking clarifying questions, you're free to think that it's because I'm a fucking idiot. But in actuality, I'm trying to make sure that the concepts get conveyed to anyone and everyone watching so that the largest group of people who might understand can understand.
Yeah, and the thing with Jared and the thing that I like to use, I guess, as an example is basically all I told Jared was, all right, so you're here and you're basically reading off of a script, and now we're not getting into actually having a conversation. We're not actually talking about the real reasons you believe. We're here to evaluate essentially your thesis that actually was written by somebody else. This is clearly very scripted out stuff. So I was like, so apply for a debate. And if anybody here wants to take on your debate topic, since you've clearly prepared for this, if somebody else wants to prepare and take on your very specific phrasing of your presuppositionalist stuff, call in and apply and we'll have you on for a full debate. You can get your whole thing out and have somebody and literally just go, wow, why are you running away? Literally offered him more platform for his position. And I was running away. And so that's when I was like, okay, bye. I'm running away. Fuck off. I don't give a shit anymore. But it was very hilarious. Much trying to speak above and act like, you just momentarily mixed up this thing and this thing. We'll call that your first mistake of the call, was one of the things he said this last time.
Nice. It's funny because, so I just did a debate Friday. And I would have to say that while subject-wise, it was not particularly enlightening. It was basically a somewhat Bayesian defense of the reliability of the Gospels with regard to the claims about the resurrection, and then my take on viewing this from a skeptical standpoint and what problems that I have with Bayesian sort of probabilistic analysis for these. And I'll be doing a debate review because I think, and I'll be interested to hear what Than has to say, but I think that Than made at least one massive error that I tried to point out during the Q&A or during the cross-examination, but I'm not completely sure that it resonated. So I'm going to do a video that's slightly more in depth on it. But for all the people who are like, oh, Matt just yells at people and Matt hangs, I would never call into the show because you're in charge of the hold button and the mute button and everything else. Do you think, for anybody who goes out and watches the debate that I did with Than on Friday, if Than had called in to present that same thing, what do you think the likelihood is that Than and I would have parted on bad terms and that Than would have been muted and put on hold repeatedly, or that if we decided to do it in a more structured format, that would just not gone well if I was in charge of the hold button? Did you get the sense that when we hugged at the end of the debate that, we were just, I don't know, faking it? And then when we went out to dinner afterwards and had conversations after, it's just, so despite what people think, because they watch this and it's a show, they're just doing this for a show. No, this is me. This is me almost all the time. And it's hilarious. Somebody actually saw the debate that I did with Dinesh D'Souza, and the clip that got pulled out of it where I basically made him look incredibly foolish in this tiny short clip. And they were like, so when you guys were planning this debate ahead of time, did you sit down with him and say, okay, if you say this, I'll just go ahead and get the punchline in for that, and then you get to say something else afterwards? And I'm like, what the hell do you think's going on? Dinesh and I had zero conversation about what was going to happen on that stage before it happened. I live my life live right now, taking calls and everything else. We're going to take another call here in just a second. But for people who think, this is just a show, no. And when things don't go well, it's because some of you failed to bring your A game, and some people failed to even bring their D game. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to make a case for something, and we're going to ask questions about it and have a discussion about whether or not we're going to agree with you or where we might see flaws. That's it. If you have not put enough thought into what you believe to define it and describe it, that's on you. If you haven't put enough thought into why you believe it, you shouldn't be calling. Because this isn't our first rodeo. It's not even our first rodeo this fucking week.
About 23 or so of you in chat have said that you do believe in the resurrection, and we would like to extend to you the invitation to call in and tell us why you would believe in the resurrection. I'm very much looking at line 4 there. I don't know.
Yeah. Dylan just noted in chat, Matt and I had a disagreement the other day, and I never took it as he and I are enemies now. I never took it as anything even really problematic. We just disagreed on a subject.
Here's I think the funniest way to make this point. Matt and I are friends because we've never disagreed about anything once. Not even one time have we ever disagreed. So that's the only reason we're still friends, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, fucking.
Jimmy and I have never had an argument where we went, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Never, not even a single time.
Not once.
Nope. That's why we're friends.
At least 6 times.
Do you mind if I pick the next one? I want to
Go for it.
Hear this one. Mike,
you may steer, sir.
What a titillating note you have given our screeners here. So we're on the line. Yeah. Mike, you're on the line with Matt and Jimmy. Perfect. And it says here that you are an atheist. However, you are here to defend the claim that everything in the Bible is true. Just the things that the way people are interpreting the Bible is wrong.
Perfect. Yeah. So I've been looking at this and working on this for a while, and I think you're going to like it, something new to chew on. So the idea goes like this. When we read this book, the Bible, there's this grand assumption that happens right in the beginning when we read from the first line, in the beginning. If you notice, the Bible doesn't explicitly state what the beginning is. So there's a grand assumption about what the beginning is, and I think the grand assumption is that people assume it means all of existence. So I've been looking at it through a different angle and thinking that it could mean something else, some other beginning. So what it could actually mean is the beginning of you, the reader. And I've been looking at this, so here's what happens. This is so right in the next few lines, it states that the earth is created before light. Now, in the way of looking at it, the story would begin with you in the womb at about 15 weeks, so your body is already created, in the heavens in your mind. And what happens is the light comes on, so it would make sense in that order. And I've been working on this for a while, and I got a lot of things that match up to other things in reality. So,
Mike, are you laughing because this is a joke?
No, I'm nervous because
Mike, you've basically done what every religious person does, despite the fact that you aren't religious, and gone, I have a special version of the way I want this all to work. So you're not a Christian apologist, apparently. But you are a Mike apologist, a Mike's reading of the Bible apologist, where you go, I'm going to make this fit. The Bible is clearly states things that are incongruent with reality, and they will go, yeah, but what if you just twist it this way and make this fit? So Mike, somebody wrote the words in the beginning. Please don't breathe directly into the microphone. This is not helping your, is this a troll call or not? Okay, great. Mike, somebody wrote the words in the beginning. How do we establish whether or not your interpretation of in the beginning is the correct interpretation versus the interpretation of, say, mainstream Christianity, or the interpretation of biblical scholars whose job it is to seek out the original context and support it with other knowledge? How do we determine which one is correct?
Right, I understand. I think what I'm saying is, my point is that it doesn't explicitly say what the beginning is.
I know that. I know, but you said, Mike, Mike, stop. My question wasn't, does it say? You said, everyone else is interpreting it wrong. You are saying that the Bible is true completely and that you have the true interpretation. So you have an interpretation. Scholars have an interpretation. Young Earth creationists have a different interpretation. Amongst all Christians, you'll find tons of interpretations. Yours is the one you say is true. How do you support that yours is true and that, say, a Christian scholar is false, is wrong?
Okay, well, what I feel that it's the story is actually describing is the process of human being in womb becoming a sentient being and the mind turning on. And
Mike, what question did I just ask you?
I have to interrupt, Mike, because that is not at all a response to the question that Jimmy just asked you.
Mike, what question did I ask you?
You're right. Go ahead.
Am I all right? Mike, what question did I just ask you?
I'm sorry, but I'm nervous.
I get it. What question did I just ask you?
He doesn't know.
I believe you asked me what was the validity to the interpretation as being like mirrored to a truth, and I'm saying that it's mirrored to it's mirrored to a process of human being becoming, from birth.
Mike, I'm going to ask the question again. If you need me to ask it again, just request, because that wasn't the question.
Sure.
You have an interpretation which you believe is true. I'll just pick one random person. A biblical scholar has an interpretation that it is describing the beginning of the earth. Or you could go with the universe, but we'll go with the earth. That's just one of many interpretations. You have one, they have the other. How do you establish that yours is true and that theirs is false?
Well, I think that theirs relies more on the idea of a supernatural element to the explanation, whereas I'm just saying that what this book is saying is simply it's describing a natural process that happens. And
Mike,
it's saying it in a way
you don't understand the question, I think, from fundamentally. I'll let Matt go because I'm getting frustrated. You're not ever answering my question. Go ahead, Matt.
Mike, what's the Hebrew word used in Genesis 1 for earth?
I don't know that, but I'm saying that it's if you just read
do
the King
you
James,
know Hebrew at all? Do you know Hebrew at all?
Some of it, not to speak it.
Okay, so would you agree that Genesis 1:1 was written in Hebrew originally?
I don't even know if it matters because I feel that the story goes back as far as we can.
I don't.
Tell,
you know what
actually.
I know doesn't matter? You avoiding the fucking question you're being asked. That's what doesn't matter. Keep dodging. You've shown up with what you think is your personal esoteric reinterpretation of it, and despite that, you don't know what the words actually say. And you don't think it matters whether or not it was written in Hebrew. The issue here is there was someone who wrote with an original intent, and you think that you've interpreted the correct original intent and that every Jew for the history of that book has gotten it wrong. Despite them being native speakers of a language, experts on studying this, you got it right. What on earth could your justification possibly be for the people who are the best understanding of this, getting it consistently wrong for the history of this writing, and you got it right?
Well, I mean, I think it's just I don't know how they got and arrived to their conclusions, but all I can say is that I just wanted to pass the idea that it's in agreement with what you're saying is that you don't believe in a God, and that would agree with that. But it's to say that when the creators created the word God or used it, what did they
Mike,
mean by it?
Mike, do you think that the people who originally wrote Genesis, do you think they believed in a God?
No.
Then you're an
I
idiot.
think they were talking about concepts of mind.
Then you're an idiot.
Okay.
Upon what basis do you justify that, Mike?
What's the second word in Genesis 1:1?
The second word, the.
No. The second word is Elohim.
I mean, that's in a different book, but I should have said I'm referring only to the King James Version.
I'm reading it in Hebrew. The second word is Elohim. The first word is Reshith. Reshith is what's translated into English as in the beginning. And it's specifically the beginning of everything, despite the fact that you don't seem to know that. But the second word is Elohim, which is God.
But that could be the mind, because as far as your mind's concerned, that is everything.
No, sir. No, sir. I'm sorry that you have absolutely no education or understanding of this and think that you can take a bong rip, look at the Bible, and make it say whatever you want, but nobody should and nobody does give a fuck about your esoteric, dude, what if it's about just humans? There's zero reason for anybody on the planet to think that Mike's flawed understanding of Genesis 1:1 is more accurate than all of the experts who've ever looked at it.
Mike, let's say you were somehow correct, which you aren't, but let's say you were somehow correct and it's actually about the human body. Where did these thousands of year old people get their embryology knowledge from that they were writing down?
Well, I don't know that I'm saying that they're talking so much about the metaphysic of it, but they're talking about the creation of the self, the idea of the self.
You literally talked about the baby in the womb as the light versus the earth. So, Mike, you're literally making this shit up off the top of your head. Honestly, I kind of wish you were a theist and not an atheist, because I am terrified by the idea that somebody will meet you and believe that you represent atheism. And there are there's a lot of atheists, and you are, my goodness, Mike, you literally want to argue that things that you have just come up with in your head might be more accurate than scholarship, than what historians, in referencing lots of other things that you
in a language you don't know.
Right. You might know better what the word Elohim means only, by the way, in that verse, despite the fact that it is continued to be used through the book and it's clearly referencing God. But this was the time they switched it to match your thing. And by the way, you and atheists go, but I also see apparently that the English version of the King James Bible is the ultimate authority by which I can deduce these things. You have all of your work ahead of you. Please learn how to actually be a skeptic, how to actually evaluate claims. Read a single scholar. I don't even care if they're a full-on Christian at this point.
There's one other thing to drive the point home. It says here, Mike, that you claim to be an atheist and a theist?
Well, no, because it's I don't consider myself to be either.
It says here, that the call screener put a note that says Mike claimed he is an atheist and a theist. Did you claim that to the call screener?
I did, yes.
Then why, when I fucking asked you, did you lie? Liar?
Because they didn't give me an option of not accepting.
Why did you lie, you liar? Don't blame it on whether or not they give you an option. I asked you a question. You fucking lied to my face. And by the way, now you're saying you're neither. Those are the only two options. Those are the only two options. And first you told the call screener you were both. And then when asked about it, you lied and claimed you were neither. Why should anybody listen to anything you say for the rest of the universe? You fucking liar who thinks you can be neither or both for two exhaustive options. Thank you, sweetie.
Mike, do you believe that a God exists?
No.
Then you are an atheist.
Congrats. And a liar.
Well, that's what I told your screener, but I didn't want to be associated with the atheists.
buddy. I don't want you associated with the atheists.
We don't want you
either.
associated with this either forever. The less association I have with you, Mike, the better off the next 55 years of my life will be.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't realize you were doing us a favor. Thank you.
Don't ever call again, Mike, and you won't have to be associated with us, and I won't have to make you look like the dipshit you are.
Wild. What a wild. I'm neither. I don't want to be associated with.
I'm both. I'm neither. I'm both. I'm neither.
Which just goes to further show this whole concept of his personal interpretations. Clearly he thinks are more weighted than what words actually mean.
I like the fact that. I'm sorry. I thought you could.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying. I like that. So here's the thing. You and I have taken callers from theists of a wide variety of different beliefs, and some of them end up making themselves look really foolish. And so there are people who think that our goal is to make theists look foolish. No, my goal is to make fools look foolish, so the other fools, whether they are theist or atheist, stop being foolish. I don't want there to be foolish atheists out there. I don't want there to be foolish theists out there. I don't want foolish atheists making arguments on our behalf that are bad, that shift the burden of proof, that misrepresent things. I don't want theists out there making bad arguments. There's a reason why Friday night, Than and I had an enjoyable, productive discussion, despite the fact that we disagree strongly on foundations of epistemology and things. There's a reason why neither of us are running around saying, oh, you know what happened? There were people like, Than just outperformed and demolished Matt. And somebody else is like, Matt just outperformed and demolished Than. These aren't WWE events, you dipshits.
Yeah,
You've been watching too much modern day debates. And for my participation in that, I apologize again, because we shouldn't be having the Jerry Springer level of discussions. We should be moving things forward a little bit more, which means if all you've got, and by the way, if somebody like Mike has their own personal esoteric understanding of Genesis, that's perfectly fine, as long as they can demonstrate that they have a baseline understanding of the scholarship and can explain how and why they depart from the scholarship. But if they don't know anything about the scholarship, don't know anything about the passage, and they're just saying, you know what, dude, I read it, and I think you could interpret this as if it's just talking about, in the beginning was in the beginning of like you. Oh, cool. So in the beginning of me, there was the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And he separated the light from the darkness and called it the morning. And that was the first day. And there's the firmament and the waters. And we continue on. And then he created all the land animals and the sea animals and the birds and the people. And yes, that's all a perfect description of God creating me. I mean, it is an absolute waste of time.
If anything can mean anything, if you just agree that everything is metaphorical, what isn't true? Literally nothing.
One of these days, maybe for fun, is like I could have somebody, if we're on too much of a delay for me to actually do it. I wonder if I could just have like a Google device or something spit out a random verse, and then we could read that random verse and say, here's competing interpretations. Jimmy then offers his interpretation of the verse. I offer my interpretation of the verse. Neither of them are consistent with the bulk of scholarship, and we can just say, see, you can do this with anything. I can grab any book.
Which is an exercise Christians teach, because that's the whole, no matter where you're at, whatever is in life, just randomly open to any verse, and that verse will apply to whatever's going on. Now, you have to figure out how it applies, but I don't know if you were ever taught that exercise, but we were.
My grandfather, when he was going to, somebody offered him a chance to invest in an oil well. And I'm pretty sure that the thing turned out to be a scam in the long run. But he evidently went to the Bible and happened to open it to a passage that said something about investing your money, and then invested it. And then They heard, oh, the oil well struck oil, and so now we're all going to be rich. And they brought everybody over to the house to talk about how they'd prayed and God told them to invest their money. And I'm pretty sure that no money was ever made off of that oil well down the road. But even if it had, randomly opening to a verse in the Bible that talked about investing money doesn't mean that's what God was telling you to do. And why would God ever work like casting stones or dice or bones or whatever else, where it's like, okay, God, I'm sitting here. I have my Bible. It is Easter Sunday. I have my Bible. It's my birthday. Let's all ask God a question. Should Matt shave his beard? I'm going to just stick my finger in, random spot. We're going to go right down there.
The parable of Samson. What?
To the one my finger's touching. What's it say? I have the wrong glasses on to be able to read something that close. This is Isaiah 2:19. Men will flee to caves and the rocks and to holes in the ground from dread of the Lord and the splendor of his majesty when he rises to shake the earth. Now, does that mean that if I shave my beard, there's going to be earthquakes that scare people into the ground? Does that mean if I don't shave my beard, there's going to be earthquakes that send people in the ground? And in that day, men will throw away to the rodents and bats their idols of silver and idols of gold, which they have made to worship. I have rodents in my garage that we raise. Beard. I have a silver beard.
By the way,
I don't have anything in gold.
I want to channel our last call a little bit. I think holes might have been referring to pussy. I think that might be
shave that. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, shave that bush. It's so dang hairy.
Well, if you had opened to that verse, I would have been convinced.
That would be really good. So unfortunately, I don't think we know what the mind of God is on whether or not I shave my beard. And so if God wants me to shave my beard, no, sir. I'm fine the way it is. Thank you.
I will say
we have more calls.
Things. I put another poll up. I changed it a little bit. 5% this time. So roughly 40, more than 40 of you have expressed a belief in the resurrection, but also 25 of you said that you would call and defend the resurrection. And this has been up for 21 minutes. Let me tell you how many people have actually called of the 20 whatever of you who've said you would. So far, 0. Now, there is one call being screened, but I don't have a single call in here of people ready to defend the resurrection. So I hope that some of you are about to rectify that mistake, because I would hate to give the impression to our callers that Christians lie. I don't want people to think that they're not really going to call. So call 720-619-2288. There's a web link in the description. Easy to find. By the way, still hurting my feelings here. I go out of my way to make the funniest shirt anybody's ever made and give you a coupon code. But Matt is winning 53 to 45. Remember, this is the last day of the competition between him and I. Mine, the unafraid to disappoint, daddy, magical or otherwise. And I realized something that I might need to clarify. This might help some of you who are wondering if you want to buy my shirt. This image on the shirt is not me. It's just meant to be God and a daddy. I have been made aware that people thought that these are the different iterations of me over the years, because I used to have some goddish hair and I've done the short hair with you're not putting my face on your chest, if that helps. You want to buy. Just wanted to clarify that.
I don't know if telling them they get half the face of God on their chest is a bigger selling point.
I like it.
I think you'd sell more if they thought it was you.
That's Magic Daddy. Magic Daddy and non-Magic Daddy. I like it.
I got it. And I got my Magic Daddy t-shirt on set. So one of those shirts, actually, my t-shirt of yours didn't count towards that total.
Correct. So I've got in my spreadsheet. So I didn't bother with yours, but I sent a couple of these as people to have them put them on their Instagram to try and help sell, but I'm not doing it during the contest. So it'll be next month that they do it. Basically I got one of each for you and for me. And I got one of each for Arden. And if you think about it, they cancel each other out. So I just don't even worry about those. But the ones that I got extra for people, I do have a little modifier on my spreadsheet to take away.
I would say that mine's winning because there's nothing to read, But then Forrest won the t-shirt thing, and there's nothing but stuff to read on his fucking shirt.
It's all in my handwriting too. That's
I know,
the
it's
weird
wild.
part.
All right.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's get some more calls in. Daniel in California, Pranzo Him, has a question about prophecy. Daniel, thanks for waiting. You're on with Matt and Jimmy.
Hey, guys. It's not so much a question about prophecy. I think I might have worded it wrong to the screener, but in general, it's more of trying to find out how do I address people that want to use prophecy to justify things, because it's mostly towards a family member, my father more particularly. He has a bit of a history, like a long history of utilizing justifying acts like, say, that survival instinct where you're collecting a lot of war survival stuff like food and getting things ready, buying up silver. It's a lot of stuff like that. And I've only recently turned myself into becoming atheist over the past couple of years. And I've really had a chance to actually see all these other things piling up. And my dad, he has an interesting history of actually being a lot of the stereotypical Baptist beliefs and stuff like that. But the one thing that's really strong that allows him to justify a lot of stuff is prophecy. Right? And, this is God telling us that this is happening in the future or right now kind of stuff. And it's just really hard for me to address it because I think prophecy is a little hogwash. I have thought that way for a long time. But trying to justify it to him is really hard, shrugging him off. And I just like the idea of putting a point out there, making somebody think. And I don't know how to address this particular topic above everything else that he likes to talk about. If that makes sense.
Sure. So for me, it's pretty straightforward. And that is, I need to hear which prophecy are they talking about? And there's one of two things. In order for a prophecy to have any weight at all with me, it needs to be specific, answerable by a single set of circumstances, not subject to interpretation, and once we get to that point and we can show that there was a prophecy that was made that then came true, the next question is the next question isn't how did the person who made the prophecy know it? It's, do we have any reason to think that that person knew that it was going to be true? Like, they didn't just, like, it didn't just happen to come true, or, it was a coincidence, or people were working towards it coming true type thing. Right. That has to be the way we're assessing this.
So the first question in general, which prophecy? It's a lot of small things, like weird little analogy kind of things where he hears this stuff from blogs or people on these podcasts. And so it's really weird interpretation stuff like you were talking about earlier. But the one that really stuck out, the one that kind of made me doubt anything relative to prophecy in general, do you guys happen to remember back in, I think it was 2015 or 16, that 4 blood moon sequence that was lined up with the Passover feasts and stuff like that? He was hardcore into that. He's very much an apocalyptic kind of a prophecy person. And, I listened to the stuff he was talking about how these are signs in the skies, and he was addressing this stuff for a long time, and he would not let it go. He kept on harping on it. And when that thing came to fruition and basically nothing apocalyptic happened, just weird stuff in politics and all that stuff, I basically shrugged off the concept of prophecies and that he brought up. And ever since then, it's small things. I wouldn't be able to nail it all down because the prophecies he brings up, he likes to share like a podcast or vlogs and lets me know that this is all foreseeable about like the changes in the economy. Like money's got to go downhill because this group that might be relative to worshiping the devil or possessed by demons and weird stuff like that. It's weird stuff. And I don't know.
But that happens all the time. That happens all the time. So he's listening to podcasts and somebody says that this particular, it's almost like they did what I just did and stumbled across that passage in Isaiah where it says men are going to go hide in caves and said, that's a prophecy that, we're getting ready to head into a really rough period of time. Yeah, but when is that supposed to happen? Because that passage was written a long time ago and doesn't say that it's about May of 2024. And since there have been countless problems, there have been tons of, by the way, we can predict every eclipse. We can predict every blood moon. We can predict the movements of bodies astronomically. So there's nothing about prophetic stuff about signs in the sky. In order for something to be prophetic about a sign in the sky now, it would need to be a sign that was not able to be predicted by science. Not a blood moon, not an eclipse, but also it needs to be specific. So when somebody's like, oh, there's these signs, people have been making that claim, and people have been saying we've been living the end times for all time.
Exactly what I said too to him. It's like he would bring up even ever since then, he would bring up little things, and of all things, sorry to bring up J.K. Rowling and this on a day like this, but in general, I got disillusioned hardcore from prophecies because of the roasting from Dumbledore to Harry Potter about what prophecies and how they mean anything. They don't mean anything until somebody gives validity to them and holds to that prophecy. And I'm the same way. I see that kind of circumstance happening, and even with science building up the knowledge about how the celestial bodies move and how the sun and the earth and the moon all affect each other in the light fashion, not in the supernatural fashion. It's like it's no longer able to be foresight. We could just kind of look forward, like say 200-300 years, and we could kind of get pretty dang close to guessing when the next eclipse is going to happen. So if we want to say we're going to have World War 12 or something like that in 300 years plus or something like that, then somebody's probably going to make all those things happen just because somebody had the sight ahead of time to say so. And it's like, ooh, this is going to be power. We got to make this happen. And it's like, I don't believe prophecies is anything short of self-fulfilling on purpose. And I don't know how to present that to my dad. He is a smart guy. He knows how to see certain things ahead of time. But the most major stereotypes of Christianity or Baptist, he calls into categories like young earther, believes people can't be possessed, believes that the earth is only 6,000 years old. I already said that. Like, he's going to go visit the Ark encounter because he believes that happened. It's like, I feel like if I was to get him to kind of if I was able to address a simple argument discussing how prophecy doesn't have a lot of power, I feel like I can help him at least see begin the domino effect of having him actually look at everything around him, because I'm going to be moving here in some time down the road, and I don't want to leave him with this problem of seeing the world the way he does now. I want to leave him a nugget of knowledge to chew on, and I feel like prophecies is the one that's really going to set a few things in motion, and I do not know how to get that point across because I have tried for a long time, and it's so hard to get that point through to him.
There's just not really a magic bullet, man. Like, this is the hard part. I can imagine ways I would talk to your dad, but the funny thing is we're literally talking about dads, and there is a difference actually. I don't know how to make a father more skeptical. I don't know if Matt thinks he does. He might, but I have failed with my own father, and there's some degree that I've noticed across the board, but also with some psychological concepts that are sort of there too. Your parents, no matter how old you are, because they changed your poopy diapers, that's a hyperbole of why there's actually deep psychological reasons, have a unique way to dismiss their children compared to anybody else. This is why whenever people ask me about coming out to their parents, the thing I always say is the only like common advice I have is have a third party that both people respect there, because people will behave much differently when there's someone they feel they are held to account for. Whereas many parents, I'm not saying that no parent is capable of learning to respect their child or respect them as an adult, but there is this level of you can surpass your parent in every way, and yet still you're their child, and they can just dismiss you on that basis. So if he's willing to engage with you intellectually in an honest way, probably things along the lines of street epistemology are the types of things I would approach him with, trying to investigate how how do we tell the difference between a prophecy that can be open to interpretation versus a prophecy that didn't actually come true? If you can just change what it means, I'd be exploring those things. But specifically, like if your heart is set on changing your father's mind, I'd tell you, my main advice would be change what your heart is set on. Because it's probably, I can't promise you shit there.
Oh, I have no delusions on changing his mind. I just don't want to leave. Like right now, he and I are like 40 minutes apart from each other because of me living in different counties from him. But I'm soon going to move state, and I have, call it a curse or a blessing, I ultimately do find myself having a heart for my family, in spite of the fact that a great deal of my family has hurt me quite a bit in the past. But I don't want to leave him without leaving something for him to chew on. Even if it goes to nothing, I just basically want to try and give him something to think about. I don't want to change him because ultimately that would be a huge shift for him.
Yeah.
He's gone through a lot of trials. He's hurt himself a lot. So I just don't want to, leave without trying.
That's why I said I don't have a magic bullet, because there's not one. That
I don't have any bullet.
Yeah.
I think you have the wrong goal.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the nice thing is, Daniel, you don't have to leave anything either. Like, no matter how far, you could be moving to Japan, you're still moving whatever the size of latency away from a conversation is. If the latency on your and his internet come up to 2 seconds, that's how far away a conversation is for you, because you can still Skype them. You can still chat. It doesn't mean your communication has to end, but I don't have while in conversations, it is often my goal not to win, but to leave a nugget and hope that a person is going to think about that nugget. I couldn't even begin to know which nugget I would be aiming for with your dad, or if he would actually hold it.
Yeah. I guess it would have to be topical to what he does, what he says next, I guess.
I've sat here for 20 years wishing people would fucking think. Yeah. And you're like, I want to give my dad something to think about. I've sat here for 20 years trying to give people something to think about. Some people won't think about it. You just got to get over it.
Yeah, well, I'll give you this much. You guys were listening to this channel, basically gave me the final nail to put the coffin lid on my beliefs, because I've gone for years and years having to deal with bad questions, good questions not being answered and all that stuff. I've had a lot of doubts for religion, and thank goodness for YouTube and COVID, because it forced me to stay at home for like 4 to 5 months and ask a lot of questions, say a lot of prayers that led to nothing. And I've gone through so many different outlets that are head faces on your guys' channel, ironically. And I finally found your guys' channel. You guys gave me a lot to think about, how to talk rationally, think rationally, ask right questions, and slow my brain down and stop trying to find an answer and just have a clean slate and bring the information in and try not to have anything short of a rational outlook on what I'm looking at. So even if I can't do anything like that for my dad.
No, you could have him watch those same shows and he might not be moved to think at all.
You could also ask him if he wants to call. Tell him about the show first. Don't trick him or anything, but see if your dad wants to call us.
Call in and prove any fucking prophecy.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, I showed him a video from Paulogia talking about the Ark encounter, because he was going to go and visit that sometime this year. So I wanted him to know about the whole thing involved there. He said he watched it, but I don't know. He decided to follow it up with sending me a video about a near-death encounter and the closest description of hell. And I'm like, oh, great. So he thought that I'll try to preach to him. Like, no, I just don't want you to look at this corrupt organization and give them credence. But Daniel, like, I could try, but I don't know.
I'll tell you, I'm in favor of the trade thing, though. I wouldn't do it with anybody. I've done it with a few people over the years, but I did try doing it for a while with my dad. If you'll watch this or you'll read this, I'll read a book of your choice. If you read a book of my choice, those kinds of things can be fun. The funny thing was, my dad wouldn't get past chapter 2 of the God Delusion. He literally said, and we're talking like 15 years ago now, he literally said, he was like, it's a very well written book, but I'm not going to keep reading it, and wouldn't give me a reason, which to me was like, oh, it challenges him. So this is the problem with non-skeptical people and people who are that deep in it. Your dad may come across challenges and choose to run away from them and have the only nugget he has left is that he considers that thing evil because he, again, I don't know how much your dad's like my dad, but that's my dad. The God Delusion's not even that great. It's pretty good, but it's not fucking mind blowing.
he's softened up a lot over the years, but yeah, it'll take a great deal of like the whole world turning against him before him to truly force him to change his perspective. But I'll try a few ideas and see if it works. But I feel like the challenging prophecy in his head, like somehow getting him to see a contradiction in there, I'm hoping that begins the domino effect. But hey, like you said, there's nothing I can do to change him. I'm just hoping I can find the right topic to help him out with that. But I guess I have to just dig a little bit deeper myself and find out what's going to really cause him to question a couple of things.
Things which are open to interpretation are immune from contradiction. That's the problem, Daniel.
That's a fair point. That's
people literally believe that the Bible has no contradictions, even though there are thousands.
Funny, I thought the same thing until I looked into it. I'm like, wait a second.
Don't say what, Matt.
But anyway,
there are thousands.
I won't hold up your guys' time.
What quantity
but I do appreciate you guys.
All right.
I do appreciate you guys letting me know about some stuff. And hey, I had a feeling you guys were going to say the same stuff, but I had to give it a try and see if it might have been some little nugget I could throw at it. But as usual, all I can do is just put the information out there and hope he has the rational ability to put a few pieces together himself.
Cool. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks for your guys' time. Great show. Love you guys. And Jimmy, go love yourself, buddy.
Thanks.
Sweet.
Happy birthday, Jimmy.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean Daniel. I thought that
it's all right.
What quantity?
We've done enough for you.
You said don't use thousands.
A handful of significant actual contradictions. One of the things is that when whether you go to like Skeptic's Annotated Bible or one of the websites that'll like draw all the, look, this one contradicts this one, some of those are actually not even remotely contradictory. Some of them are obvious, like scribal errors that aren't going to make any sort of problem. They would be, it's where they get it, it's correct in its original form. I don't find too many significant actual contradictions, but it doesn't really matter. But when people are like, oh, there's thousands, I'm like, oh no, don't even put a rough quantity on it. Just pick your favorite one. Pick one and go, here it is. And if everybody could pick the best one, then every single person out there is like, oh, there's no contradictions in the Bible. What about this one? Matter of fact, new project for me in the next week or so is to pick the one contradiction that everybody should know. As a matter of fact, all of you atheists that are out there, all of you people who've gone through Skeptic's Annotated Bible, gone through, all these little charts and everything else, in the chat for this episode, put your favorite contradiction in the chat. I'll go through the chat, assess some of them. I'm working on a couple new video projects anyway, and we can at least just agree, like, here's one or two or three, the 2 or 3 most significant contradictions. And I'll say that not all theists remotely think there are no contradictions. I mean, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but several of my debate opponents have acknowledged that there are contradictions, and not just scribal errors, but problematic contradictions.
Yeah. My nose is getting real itchy. People are going to accuse me of a coke trip, but I'm not in college anymore. I don't have that kind of thing. Time mostly. Waiting to see. So we are only taking additional theist calls. We have another call to get here in a second. We'll see, but we'll leave lines open for theists. Otherwise, we'll start reading some of the birthday wishes here in a little bit. Don't forget that tonight after the show at 6:00 Central Time, Matt will be doing a Zoom with everybody. And some of the things that people, okay. So 2% of the 5% of the 1,000, let's say just 1,200. 5% of the 1,200 people have said they do believe in God or in the resurrection, and 2% said they would call and defend the resurrection. And so far, not one of them was a truth-telling resurrection believer about calling.
I also have a correction.
Go ahead.
Earlier when I was asking what the second word was in Hebrew, I was wrong. The second word is actually bara, and it's the third word that is Elohim. And it's because the order of words in Hebrew would be in the beginning created God, because that's the order of the structure there. Whereas in English, it becomes in the beginning God created. And so what's the second Hebrew word that is, once you've translated in English in that order? So it's the third one that I was talking about, if you're reading it standard right to left in Hebrew.
I'm actually familiar with Ba-Ra because of Lady Gaga. I'm pretty sure that's why the one Ba-Ra.
Oh yeah.
It would not surprise me if that's intentional. What a queen. She's the best. And okay, yeah, go ahead if you want to. I'm filtering stuff. If you want to pick the next, we can go for it.
I will absolutely. We have, is it Luis or Louis from Germany? Pronounce him an atheist. So welcome.
Hello, Matt. Hello, Jimmy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, though I think you can back off your mic a little.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I think you can back off your mic a little. You're coming in real loud.
He's in Germany. Move your mouth farther away from the microphone.
Yeah.
The thing is that I have a headset.
Yeah. Well,
is it better now?
No.
I don't know how to fix this because
you can't physically move the microphone farther away from your mouth? Or raise it up in any way to get it farther away from your mouth? Or whisper?
Louis, I think we've just lost you completely. I don't hear you at all now. Okay. Well, Louis, I imagine you're probably going to call back. I'm waiting to see if I see you reconnect. What's going on here? All right, well, waiting to see what else is being screened right now. Oh, there we go. Hi,
Hello.
Louis.
Is it better?
Not really, but well, I'm just going to turn you down a little bit.
Let's just go.
And we'll go. Just go ahead and give us your thing.
Okay, so I have more like a question. So as I put in my description, I'm atheist, and I would like to have a way to falsify God because I don't like open questions. And this has to do with my background. I can talk about this afterwards if you are interested. But the thing is, I have come with the concept of the Gödel incompleteness theorem, which says that if you have a set of axioms, it's possible to have a question that you cannot prove to be false or true. And in the context that I care about what is actually the truth, and that's what math actually says all the time, what if this question is actually non-answerable? And this means that this invalidates the question altogether, or should, I don't know, I would like to have your take on that.
I'm not sure I know what the question is, because there are a number of different gods that have been proposed. Some, possibly all of them, are in fact unfalsifiable in any pragmatic sense. And so if you only want to address gods that are falsifiable, then you need someone to propose a god and show how it's falsifiable.
I'm more interested in the question of whether there is a God in a more generic sense.
Whether or not there is a God in a more generic sense than what?
We can put, for example, if there is a creator of the universe, if we want to be a little bit more specific, but I just want I want your input in the sense of whether this is ultimately unanswerable.
How could anybody possibly say it's unanswerable? The fact that something is unanswered and may or may not be unfalsifiable now doesn't tell you whether or not it's going to be unfalsifiable forever. And anybody who's saying, oh, that question is and always will be unanswerable, they've adopted a burden of proof that they'd need to meet. If you're just saying, hey, I really wish that we could, address the issue of whether or not there's a creator with a more robust falsifiable claim, okay, cool. And I wish I had $1 billion. but I have to address the God. I have to address the God claims that people actually come up with, and so far they're generally unfalsifiable.
Sure, but the thing is, giving a concrete example of what I mean by unanswerable. So this Gödel incompleteness theorem came to be in the math context, and one example of the application of this is you talk about set theory a lot of times, and the question that he proposed to exemplify this is the set of all sets that do not contain themselves.
I'm aware of all this.
Or not?
I'm aware of the problems related to this. What the fuck does that have to do with whether or not there's a God that you can investigate?
My question is, what if this is a problem that is unanswerable?
That's not I don't care about what ifs. I'm not interested in hypotheticals. If somebody says, what if this question can't ever be answered? Okay, then it can't ever be answered. And if somebody else says, what if it can be answered? Okay, then it can be answered. I only give a shit about what is, not what if. What if is a waste of my time.
But also
because what if you're wrong?
Trying to apply Gödel's theorem to this too it's a mathematical principle. It doesn't work at all. And even though those things are true, like the Goldbach conjecture right now, we don't know if it's unanswerable or just unanswered. We can still
it applies to systems.
We can still test within the limits of our knowledge of prime numbers and see that it's still consistent. I can do no such testing with God.
Yeah, Gödel's incompleteness stuff applies to systems, not single fact assertions. There is a creator God. That's not a system. So Gödel's incompleteness theorems aren't going to apply to it at all. The only issue is it testable? And does testability include falsifiability? That's it. And if the answer is, I don't know, then we can sit around and speculate all day about whether it's, what if it's not falsifiable? What if it is falsifiable? I don't care. That's all a waste of time until there's an answer.
So supposing that a theist brings this up, you would say that this point doesn't matter. It's just about
if a theist brings what up?
This argument, because the thing is that trying to answer
no, stop. You can't say this argument when you haven't made an argument. Tell me word for word what you think a theist will bring up, and I'll address that.
So what I thought that could come up from a theist point is that if there is this incompleteness theorem, for example, we can have a God that we with science cannot prove because it's unanswerable. So I was trying to go around this argument and see what I would respond in the case if someone brings this up to me.
No. So what you're saying is, what would I say if a theist came to me and said, based on the incompleteness theorem, for example, we could have a God that science can't prove? Well, I don't think that too many theists are likely to come up with that. I don't know why I'd waste my time thinking about what I'd do if a theist tried to do that. But I do the same thing that we did here, which is assert that the incompleteness theorems apply to systems and not individual claims about whether or not there is a God. And if theists are running around saying, maybe there's a God that science can't prove, then the only issue becomes, what reason do you have to justifies your belief? And why should I give a fuck about maybes? Are you saying that we should all accept that there is a God that science just can't prove, that somehow you've detected the undetectable? Somehow you have no evidentiary warrant for the thing that you think is a warranted belief? I would say this is an incredibly confused theist who is offering up a useless proposition that no one should spend any time on. If you're going to say there is a God, but science can't confirm it, or we have no way of verifying it, then what you're saying is you've detected the undetectable. Good job.
Yeah, Lewis, and regardless of even if they still didn't get it and that assertion still didn't make sense to them, the idea that this would be a foundation to a belief would be insane. Because if you just ask the person, therefore, is your conclusion that you can say this is the foundation of your belief on this assertion? And if they say yes, then you can just say, okay, great. Now start believing I did it, because I'm asserting to you that I did it. I created the universe. Worship me now. You said all you need is the assertion that can't be disproved there to make it foundationally okay to accept some greater belief, because the solution could add up to that, but it might be unanswerable because you don't understand this theory. There's no way to justify, even if you sat there and went, I think this also, you couldn't say that it is a justified way to a way to justify it as the foundation of your belief.
How many theists,
Sure.
Lewis? How many theists? How many theists?
Sorry.
How many theists have come to you to say that maybe this Gödel's incompleteness theorem is a justification for why God can't, or why science can't prove God? How many theists have said that?
Oh, don't get me wrong. None. This was in my
none.
mind.
I don't need to sit around. I don't need to sit around and come up with hypothetical answers to fictional questions that are unlikely to be presented by the individuals that are advocating for it. There's enough actual claims from theists that need to constantly be addressed that we don't need to fucking invent new ones.
If anything, Lewis, I'm a little annoyed with you because now somebody will go Google it, read the Wikipedia entry, and Matt and I will probably get a theist that will propose this starting next week, where it's literally just like their complete non-understanding of the concept, which you've also shown some here today, Lewis. They're going to go, but according to this, even though it's not been the conclusion of any mathematician. Well, I don't know every mathematician, but hasn't, at least to our knowledge, been the conclusion of mathematicians that theory proves God. You say Gödel? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
You say Gödel. I don't know why we do it.
It's Gödel.
Okay. Does it hold you tight?
Okay. At least, well, I don't know. Maybe.
I cannot explain
maybe Lewis can do it.
Do what?
Pronounce Gödel.
Oh, I'm actually not German. I'm living in Germany. I think that the right pronunciation is Gödel. But I'm not a native speaker anyway. But if you allow me to explain why I came up with this scenario, I can give it a try. But if we have...
Now we got a theist caller.
That's fine.
Yeah, we got a theist caller, and we got some other stuff we want to do before the hour. So thanks for calling, Lewis. And if anybody calls in for the theorem of supportive garments, I'm going to be really mad at you. Thank you, Lewis.
Okay, thank you. Good night. And happy birthday, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Because a girdle is also a supportive garment, people. That was my joke. That was pretty funny. I had fun, and that's what matters. You ready for the next one?
Sure.
Shauna in Canada is calling, I think, with evidence of the stigmata. For stigmata. Shauna, you're on the line with Jimmy and Matt. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Delightful. Give us what you got.
I don't have evidence. I wanted to know what your guys' thoughts are for stigmata. I'm a questioning theist at this point. I find arguments about things like that, supernatural events, pull me back, especially at times around like Easter and things, where I'm thinking, if it hasn't been fully debunked, maybe there is something to that. And I'm just kind of waffling.
Yeah. So by saying, if it hasn't been fully debunked, maybe there's something to it, is a shifting of the burden of proof. It's not up to anybody to debunk anything ever. What needs to happen is that there needs to be a real demonstration that there is an effect. And then, and you called it supernatural, we have no justification that anything supernatural ever exists or happens or interacts with reality. So even if somebody has some sort of stigmata-like effect, you have no demonstration of what the cause is. And you certainly don't have a demonstration that the cause is supernatural. The fact that you don't know what the explanation for it is, or I don't, or maybe none of us do, doesn't mean that it's supernatural, because the entire history of the world, everything that has been claimed to be supernatural, that has either been confirmed to be natural or supernatural, has always been confirmed to be natural. There's never in the history of the world been confirmed anything supernatural, causation or otherwise. It's just the bucket that people tend to dump things in when they don't have a natural explanation, because they're uncomfortable with not having an explanation. And so for things like stigmata, which I'm not aware of any investigation ever to demonstrate an actual stigmata effect, but even if there has been the effect, I'm definitely not aware of any demonstration that that effect is supernatural in origin.
Fair enough. What if you can't test phenomena like that through science?
Then you shouldn't believe it. If you have no way to test something to find out its origin, then you should not engage in a belief about its origin. So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I believe I was abducted by aliens, I'm willing to accept that they are trying their best to honestly, in most cases, tell me about an experience they had. But as soon as they say what the explanation is for the experience, that requires evidence. So how do I tell the difference between someone who's delusional and had a mental experience that they can't distinguish from reality and someone who was actually abducted by aliens? Without evidence, it would be a mistake for me to conclude. Meanwhile, the other aspect of this is, let's imagine for a second that some devout believers have some sort of stigmata experience, and that this is in fact something that God is doing. Why would God give someone a stigmata experience that they can't prove, can't investigate? It does absolutely nothing to confirm anything about the story. And if it did, if stigmata-like experiences were sufficient to just confirm the story, they would no longer be needed. Why doesn't God just show up and say, hey, this shit's true?
And I get stuck in this rabbit hole thinking exactly the same thing. I've never experienced anything like that. I've never seen it with my own eyes. I don't know how I'd react if I did. But yeah, it seems a little bit, I don't know, a little out there. But it's these types of things where people are conveying stories of miracles and quote unquote supernatural events that make me think maybe I'm just too skeptical. Maybe I'm not, relying on faith. Maybe I'm.
Why didn't they, Shauna?
Yeah.
The people, let's say all of those people are telling the truth and they all genuinely had a supernatural stigmata experience. How many
Which
of them
we already know is false, because some of them have admitted to deception and fraud. Sure. And Joe Nicola has investigated a bunch of these. Magdalena de la Cruz, for example, before she died, confessed that all of her stigmata was deliberate deception.
Sure. But Shauna, you're expressing a sort of angst over, like, what if you're making a mistake by not trying to have some faith? Imagine all the people with stigmatas actually had a supernatural experience. What percentage of them had to rely on faith? None. So why do you have to question whether or not you're being unreasonable when they get to allegedly have a faithless experience of the direct experience of the stigmata? Yeah. But it's a problem if you go, well, I want to question it. That's
and what insane. What kind of God would punish you for not believing a story where, let's just imagine we have 100 claims of stigmata and 20 of them have been proven and admitted to be frauds, and the other 80 are unknown, and you neither have the ability or power or knowledge to investigate them what kind of God could possibly hold you responsible for not being convinced with respect to something you can't investigate? Isn't it God's duty to make sure that he presents strong evidential warrant for his existence to you? What if there is a God and he's not doing the stigmata stuff? And you believe in the wrong God because you gullibly believed in stigmata experiences. It's like, the stigmata moves me closer and closer to Catholicism, when really it's a Protestant version or something else entirely. The better course of action, I mean, I'm an atheist. That doesn't mean I say there are no gods and it's all bullshit, although I will say that some of it's bullshit because we can demonstrate it. But for other things, if it turns out there is a God, I have supreme confidence that if after I die, I find myself standing in front of a God, I can honestly say, I honestly followed my conscience and the evidence and the best standards of evidence and tried to avoid being tricked into believing anything. I did not believe you were real, and I do not see how I can be faulted for you being the all-time champion of hide and go seek.
That freaks me out so much. I have this dread that I'm wrong. I dread that I'm wrong.
But Shauna,
and I've got children now that I'm kind of saying, no, we're not going to be believers anymore because it's affecting their mental health. And I just worry so much that I'm wrong.
That's religious programming. That was the game from the onset, was to make you afraid and to also extend to you things which are positive that hurt to lose. Because right now you can acknowledge that if you just believe again, you'll instantly get some amount of community get back, some amount of camaraderie back. If you accept stigmatas, you could get a brand new community. But also there's the excitement and the enthusiasm that people talk about these stigmatas, the way they sound like they're telling the truth and they sound very confident, even though we know that that's what liars sound like. Liars don't lie because they never are because they're always caught. Liars often aren't caught. You learn how to be. Now, again, I'm not asserting that they are for sure liars, but I will say the number of instances of natural liars existing is an infinitely higher number than supernatural things being confirmed. And so for me, that's enough. That's the thing I find comfort in. If I can come with a natural explanation, even if it's kind of wild, I still have come up with something. Not that I'm saying that I now accept that natural explanation as the answer, but I've come up with something that's infinitely more confirmable than any supernatural explanation. But I get it. There's social pressures and there's religious programming, and it's something that you have to work on and deconstruct. We mentioned recovering from religion already. You should get on recovering from religion. You should get in these group meetings. You should talk to other parents, and you should talk to these counselors about it.
So you
Shauna,
don't worry. Yeah.
I don't worry at all. And here's why. Shauna, do you want to know whether or not God is real?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it impacts
Me too.
my
Me
life,
too.
my kids, everything.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Have you asked God to answer this question?
Oh, so many times. And I've never
Has
heard
God
anything,
answered
which
you?
makes me skeptical. No, never.
Has God answered you?
No.
Didn't answer me either. So how can it possibly be our fault if the creator of the universe, who supposedly knows our mind and supposedly wants to have a relationship with us, who we're told by many that if we reach out to him, he'll answer, and we reach out and there's no answer? Any God that could hold myself or you at fault for him not answering the question we asked is a thug, undeserving of respect or worship. There's nothing I can do to keep him from torturing me, but what I can do is not allow not knowing to continue to torture me during my life. Because as far as I can tell, this is the one and only life that I know I'm going to get. And if there's an afterlife, it's a bonus. And if God wants to torture me in an afterlife for the fact that he's better at hiding himself than I am at finding him, fuck off, God, you're useless. And so I don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Call recovering from religion, Shauna, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely will. Thanks so much.
And if God ever does answer you, or if you come up with a better explanation, or you find out that there is a God and Jimmy and I have missed something, call us back and tell us what it is.
Hell yeah.
I think that individuals do sometimes have experiences that they attribute to God, but it's hard to convince other people when it happens. Just like the stigmata thing, if it happens to someone, they have a really hard time kind of convincing other people.
Well, some of the experiences that they attribute to God, though, are real dumb, like finding one's keys, or even when asking the question, the like, I was told in a religious thing where everybody was behaving a certain way, that if I set up this very silent ritual and I pray to God, that I'll feel a warmth, and they literally prime you for the feeling of the Holy Ghost. And so now God speaks, and he has the power to actually speak, but instead he makes it a little bit of a tingle between your nipples. It's the stupidest shit. Bosom was the other word I could have gone with, but burning in the bosom is so overplayed. Anyway, Shauna, the best of luck to you, and yeah, I'll call out RFR for sure.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Did you receive his tingle in your nipples? I
don't know. See, because I've got so much diabetic neuropathy, I'm not even sure if my nipples could feel a tingle. Oh yeah, they can.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's a tingle.
I'm burning in your bosom, baby.
I'll be in my bunk.
Here's what I'm going to propose, people. After the show, because I know during the show, that's Matt's a very popular guy, undoubtedly, and a lot of people come from Matt. But you know when the Jimmy Simps come up, the Jimmy Simps show up on the video on demand, and the contest is going through midnight. So through midnight tonight. And Matt, I think the funniest thing to do would be Matt will reveal who the winner was by wearing the corresponding shirt on Wednesday. That makes sense. If he won, he'll wear his own shirt. If I won, he'll wear my shirt. Because you're the next one on.
I can do that. Normally I don't. If you go back through the history of all the shows I've done over the last 20 years, I think there's probably less than 10 times I've worn a T-shirt on the show.
We can get you a
I
hoodie.
just don't wear T-shirts on the show, but I will.
We can get you a hoodie. I love a hoodie.
Well, that's not the point.
I get you.
I wear a collared business casual shirt or a suit when I'm doing stuff because I don't want to look like the guy who's in his parents' basement.
Oh, I hear you. You want me to get you the crop top. All right, we'll get you the crop top.
There you go.
And
can you get me a bikini where on the right one is the Sky Daddy and on the other one is the actual daddy?
Hell yeah.
And I can just be like, I get like a fake tattoo across the tops. It's not afraid to disappoint, and then 2 arrows going down. Show off my man boobs as they get smaller.
You have to even ask. Just of course I can. I'll dedicate the rest of my day to this.
The easiest thing Jimmy could do. He's already got one ready to go.
What a weird coincidence. All right, we're gonna start out by reading some of the messages that came in with merch, and then also so anybody who sent a message already, super chat, since we didn't say it, we'll read any of the $5 or more, these birthday wishes and stuff. But from here forward, it would be $10 and up, but just because we want to get out of here around the hour, so Matt has a little time to decompress before the Zoom, so I can set the Zoom up, send out notifications and stuff. So that's going to be the situation now. So from here forward, anything before now, $5 is fine, but here forward, we'll do $10 and up, and then we are reading the merch messages. So thank you to Demree. Thank you to Tilden. Don't see a message on. Okay, here's one from Glenn. Don't know how y'all deal with idiots and willfully ignorant people all the time. Respect you guys. I give the benefit of the doubt that they don't know they're being stupid usually. I don't know that I think they're all willfully ignorant.
Is a difference between being willfully ignorant and being intentionally? Like, it's the difference between I'm not going to look at or consider the things that might show I'm wrong, or I'm going to intentionally avoid these things because I know I'm wrong and just don't want to admit it type thing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Glenn. Colby says truck fump. Indeed. Speaking of truck fump, did you see Trump re-threading, what is he called? Retruthing. On Truth Social, he posted a video of a truck that has the tailgate with an illustration over it to make it look like sitting within the truck is Joe Biden bound and on his side with a gunshot in his head.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and that just got progressively weirder.
Yeah. Okay. On Truth Social, Donald Trump retruth, the equivalent of retweeting, a video of a truck that is driving on the highway, and the truck has its tailgate painted. The illustration makes it appear that inside the truck, it's drawn that way so that it looks like inside the bed of the truck is Joe Biden laying down on his side, bound with a gunshot in his head. And Donald Trump has shared that with all of his followers.
Well, that's what we should expect from a president.
Yeah. Well, it's so presidential. What a guy. Literally, like, to me, how does his own Secret Service not turn around and go, okay, so now we have to interrogate you because you just basically did an implicit threat to the life of the president. The fuck is wrong with you? Anyway, Travis said, go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Mitchell says, thanks for all the shows you put on. Elena says, just wanted to say you are probably my favorite persons on the YouTubes. Hope you win because your design is hands down the best. Oh, that was one of mine, but I will tell you, I'm losing right now. I appreciate you though, Elena. Scott says, much love, buddy. Great shirt. Sarah says, chewed gum is awesome. More Erika.
Amen.
I literally, it's so funny. Chewed gum is actually getting incredible reviews. Whoever you are, gender irrelevant, you should check out Chewed Gum. It is funny how there are these shows where I'm like, when we first started, I'm like, man, I'm worried about the reception of these shows. And then you have like Transatlantic and Chewed Gum are the top two that were that way. And they are my two favorite shows. Those are the best shows on the line, both of them. But I hands down, I'm not going to say which one's number one and which one's number two, because I don't know if if we've even decided. But Transatlantic and Chewed Gum are the two best shows I think here going. They're phenomenal. Anyway, totally agree, Sarah. Thank you so much. Jason said nothing, but thank you, Jason. Crystal said, Matt, would you please sign? And it's a mug, an NBOSS mug, and I think Crystal may have misunderstood your thing about signing the shirt at the beginning. These don't get sent from us. They get sent from our distributor. So you'd have to bring him the mug to sign it.
I haven't even, I don't know if I've even seen a mug with it on it. Basically, at the debate, somebody showed up with the T-shirt and a marker, and I signed it there.
Yeah. Now, that said, we could try and make sure that when you go to events in the future that we send you with some, if you want to set up a merch table, have somebody man a merch table for you. we could
I could see it at things like, so the American Atheist Convention was this past weekend. I didn't go because I had to go for that debate. But I think if we were tabling it, something like that, I could definitely take some line merch. But yeah, for something like this debate where I basically flew in and was at the debate for just a couple hours I was there, I don't know that even trying to table anything would be wild. And I don't think, like, in much the same way that Jesus hand-built a scourge to run the money changers out of the temple, I would think that some of the preachers, especially if they've paid me to come down, might be a little upset if I set up a table in their church and just started selling merchandise with like a horned face on it.
Damn, I was going to sell signed Bibles. Do you see that? You see Trump selling signed Bibles right now?
Are they signed?
He's signing them. Donald Trump is signing for $60. You can buy a Donald Trump signed Bible.
That's not a Donald Trump signed Bible. That's the God Bless America Bible that Lee Greenwood's been selling, where they stopped. The NIV wouldn't let him publish it, so they used a King James version. But I didn't see anything about any of them being signed by Trump.
I might be wrong on the signature thing. He endorsed.
Yes, it's the only Bible endorsed by Trump. I just did a video on this. It's the only Bible endorsed by Trump and by Lee Greenwood, because that's important.
Yeah, I mixed two stories. He signs Bibles at events. I've just pulled it up here. He signs Bibles at events, but that's not the Bible that he is selling. Different selling Bible. Endorses a Bible, the only Trump-endorsed Bible And then separately, if you bring him your Bible to an event, he'll sign them. All right. Christian said Matt should have opened on the Baldyverse. Then he had an excuse to also train bears. Brendan said, happy birthday, Matt. And Lisa said, I appreciate the work you do. You've helped me in so many ways. And Brandon says, love you all at the line so much. Thought about buying both, but Jimmy's like my most favorite person on the planet. Please sell more later. Boy, these messages never make sense to me. But I appreciate it. It's maybe I've just read too many comments. The idea that people are like, no, Jimmy, you're likable. It's too tough for me. Anyway, Jen AV says, happy belated birthday. Thanks for giving me constant YouTube entertainment and constantly teaching me new things. Is that the last one of the merch messages we have for the moment? Oh, we have one from an Arden. One Arden has said nothing.
What?
Arden, I'm just going to refund it. You don't have to, you work here. You don't have to pay for merch. What are you doing?
Honey, stop giving money to YouTube.
Well, no, this is to Fourth Wall as our merch provider, but
yeah.
This might be just trying to get you more points, but he's winning right now anyway. But
in that case, thank you, honey, for getting me more points.
It's the stakes are so high. I'm refunding you, Arden. You'll still get it, but I'm definitely refunding.
I thought she had given a super chat, and because I used to do super chats, especially in the early days of TACIS. I'd come in. I was like, hang on, I'm just giving money. YouTube's taking part of it, and then a portion of that's just coming back to me. So we're all completely losing at that point because I could have just handed Jimmy the money right away.
Pennies on the dollar. Yeah, I mean, at the very least, Arden, if you were like ordering a lot of merch and it was going to cost us a lot, I'd be like, okay, you can have it at cost. We'll refund the profit. But
I wonder if she used the Epic Loot Exotics credit card to do it, because now she'd be charging our business to buy stuff from the only thing that's actually making money right now, because the snakes aren't making much money yet.
All right, let's see. And then we'll do these super chats. So as a reminder, $10 and up from this point forward, but we will do the $5 that had come in before my little thing there. Sheridan Bernasconi. I want to say it like that. I don't know if you're Italian or not. Happy birthday, Matt. Your debate was exemplary. And like you said, not Jerry Springer. Hi, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself.
Thank you so much.
This one's you.
999 from Megan Marie. Happy birthday, Matt. Thank you. I hope you had a great day. I had a really good day. Looking forward to listening to your debate tomorrow at work. Jimmy, go take a painted Easter egg up the butt. Wow. By the way, I think my favorite thing is that Easter eggs, even though this is technically not true on any of the actual claims, but I like the fact that somebody said they're aborted chicken fetuses that dressed up in drag for children. So,
hey, Megan, I would appreciate your comment, except for I suspect you want it to be lead paint, but I don't know. I can't be sure. $4.99 from Chili Dogs. Happy birthday, Matt.
Thank you. $5 from Mr. Monster. Happy birthday, Matt, and happy day of transgender visibility. Yes.
Hell yeah.
I also like making it today being exposing and making visible the transphobia that people have to deal with on a regular basis, because it's just maybe a few years down the road, it'll be less of a problem.
I just realized that I don't know if I've officially said happy birthday to you, but I kind of wonder if you're not like me and don't really give a fuck.
I don't.
Yeah.
I can't remember if you did, but I just assumed you wished me to have whatever kind of birthday I wanted.
Yeah. Well, that's not true, because I wanted you to do your birthday on the line, because they are good injections of revenue for a channel becoming more and more expensive every day. So I didn't want you to have the birthday you wanted. I wanted you to come on and do this with me. But maybe that is what you wanted. Happy.
There's somebody in chat. Yes. By the way, now that this has been said in chat, I want to address it, but don't anybody else necessarily expect this. But there was a young person at the debate who expressed how much of a fan they were of Forrest Valkai. Wanted to know, how well do you know Forrest and all this other stuff. And I was like, he's coming down to visit. We're all going to watch the eclipse together and everything else. So I called Forrest and just basically handed the phone over so that that person could talk to Forrest and say how much they enjoyed his content and everything else. do not keep coming up to me and expecting me to call Forrest or Jimmy or any of my other friends to put you in touch with them. I just did this because I was having a good day, and I knew that Forrest would happily make somebody else's year by talking to him.
Yeah. There's something I want to reference, but I'm not going to on air because people will. But you did that with me one time in the past, and I was going to reference it and go, yeah, you did that. Anyway, I'll tell you after.
I've called Seth. I've called Aaron. It's one of those nice things where if I'm at an event and somebody comes up and it's very clear that I know somebody who they are just like, I am Forrest's biggest fan. And what they'll do sometimes is be like, hey, when you talk to Jimmy or when you talk to Seth or Aaron or Forrest or whoever else, can you tell them blah? And half the time it's just like, here, you tell them, I'll talk to everybody else for a minute. But yeah.
Though I'm sure if Matt was going to do it to me today, he would go, I'll call him and he'll probably call back within 2 minutes because that's our routine.
Actually, if anybody came up to me now, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to bug Jimmy.
I hope he's in his wood shop. That would be
I hope
better
he's
for everybody else. Or that, yeah. Or sleeping. I cut myself on my it's been bugging me this whole it's like a bad paper cut with a chisel last night. Yeah.
$4.99 from Alex Mason. I don't know. I'm sorry, Alex. Please don't ask for a refund just because I can't pronounce your name. Happy birthday, Matt. You've been such a help in my deconversion. I appreciate you so much. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Sweet.
666 from Bobby Fletcher. Happiest of day of birth celebrations, Matt. For a solid 20 seconds, when I first saw Bobby Fletcher's name come in, I could no longer remember the name Bobby Fischer. And I was like, oh, that's like what's that one guy's name? And it just locked it out for me. Anyway.
For chess geeks, searching for Bobby Fischer is a really good movie.
Yeah.
$20 from Elite Trainer Kenway. Happy birthday, Matt. Happy Go Fuck Yourself Day, Jimmy. Much love to everyone on the line. And those are trans-colored hearts right there.
Was Happy Go Fuck Yourself Day, Jimmy, like, what is it called? Have you ever seen that? I think it's a joke thing, but it's like a comfort present. Like, if a kid is at somebody's birthday party and they're just like a really terrible kid, you'll give them like a present also when the other kid gets a present so they don't feel left out. There's a phrase I've heard for it. But anyway, you can just it's okay if everyone ignores the fact that I am here for the rest of the show. I don't need a participation present or whatever the phrase is. This is Matt's day. He already gave me the gift of doing his birthday on the line with me.
Oh, that's super sweet.
Well, it was what I was saying earlier. It helps the business, but I am enjoying I just enjoy doing Sundays with you, but your birthday, I specifically was like, that's a good business move. Scott Caswell says, happy birthday, Matt. Love for everybody in the shows, especially today, our trans brothers and sisters and our non-binary pals. Let's not forget.
I made a reference in my debate to non-binary folks, and I'm thrilled that I did because it was just like a quick little aside talking about probabilities, and I mentioned non-binary folks. And of course, someone in the crowd was in fact non-binary, appreciated the recognition, and came up and thanked me for it afterwards. And, everybody can do that. It doesn't take any effort. If you're ever in a spot where you're a performer and for the last 40 some odd years, I'd probably just get up and say, ladies and gentlemen. And yet several years ago, I changed that so that I'm not saying ladies and gentlemen. I don't make it necessarily clumsy by going, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary people. It's just, hello, welcome everyone. And now all of a sudden you've just been inclusive.
Yeah.
But what I was saying in the debate is if you were going to do a probability analysis, if somebody just gave birth and you'd say that basically the probability that it's a boy is around 50%, not exactly, and not exactly 50-50 between men and women. There's non-binary people as well. And that was it. Just keep on going.
Hell yeah. I like Smizmars sometimes. Sometimes I say ladies and gentlemen and Smizmars because that's a reference to the non-binary alien race in Futurama. And they do that in Futurama. It's just fun. 99 from LA Silver Surfers. Happy Chalk Bunny Day, everybody. I don't like the way you wrote it, but thank you.
I have chocolate. I got a Cadbury Caramello, which is I'm praying take me all day to eat. I think one of my favorite memes about the chocolate bunnies is that, of course, the hollow ones, there were people that were like pouring liquor into them, but also somebody just like had taken the top off the head and held it up and said, the chocolate bunnies are hollow to remind us of God's promises.
There you go.
I love that.
There's a super chat that just came in that I'm excited to get to, but there's so many in the way. But I'll remember my response. This one's you, I think.
$10 from Eric Richardson. Happy birthday, shipmate. Thank you so much, Eric. Fair winds and following seas. Greatly appreciated.
20 from Scott Caswell. Happy birthday, Matt. Much love for everyone on the shows, especially today. Some extra love for our trans peoples. You're gay, homie. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
$10 from Brent McMonigal. Happy birthday, Matt. An agnostic told me atheists are arrogant for not believing there is more to discover. I explained we reserve beliefs for when more is discovered and we have evidence. Thoughts? Yeah. I don't know what makes him think that arrogant atheists believe there isn't more to discover. Yeah. I'm an atheist and I believe there's way more to discover than we have discovered. And I, as someone who's an obsessive learner, I love discovering new things all the time, except that this here that you've just presented is not a discovery, because people who self-identify as agnostic are some of the most arrogant, ignorant, condescending jackholes on the planet, because they misunderstand atheism and try to pretend that they are on some higher ground. Like, oh, the theists absurdly believe the ridiculous, and the atheists absurdly think that they know everything and can reject the atheist. I'm taking the wonderful middle ground. No, you're not. You're refusing to answer the question, because if the question is, do you believe? That's a yes or no, which means you're either a theist or an atheist. Nobody asked if you know, which is the subject of agnosticism. And as such, as knowledge is a subset of belief, therefore, agnosticism would be a subset of theism, or whatever stripe of theism you might be. But anyway, I believe there's more to discover. Don't you, Jimmy?
Yeah, and often when accused of arrogance, I'll often turn it into a joke and just be like, oh, man, that's so true. But also, who do you think's more arrogant, an atheist or a person who claims to know the hearts of strangers by the category they belong to?
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck you. Like, there's no way to non-arrogantly broadcast an entire category of people are arrogant themselves. What a wild thing to say.
I am above the fray of the theist-atheist divide.
Oh, have you smelled my farts today?
Well, no, I haven't. It's impossible to smell your farts, sir.
It is. I wish that was true. I'd be welcome at birthday parties. 20 pounds from Adam Wilson says, happy birthday, Matt.
Thank you, Adam. $100
wow.
From Steve Kodlinios. Happy 55th, Matt. Thank you so much. That is incredibly generous.
Holy shit. I just saw something else that, okay, we'll get there, but thank you. Yeah, Steve, way generous. 14
yes.
Californian from Pat Mac 23. Matt's gentle and
That's
kind.
Canadian.
That's what I meant. What did I say?
Californian. They don't yet have their own currency yet because they haven't seceded from the Union and can't.
$13.99 from the Caucus of Athens. Matt's gentle and kind response to Dinah, especially suggesting she go slowly and seek help from professionals who can handle her issues with proper resources, is why I love this community in the line.
Thank you so much, Pat Mac.
I love it here too.
$10 from Sherman Bay. I'd like to see a t-shirt of a bunny on a cross. Well, funny you should mention that. Years and years ago, on an episode of The Show That Shall Not Be Named. I'm just kidding. Back when I was doing the Atheist Experience, I had an actual wooden cross that I made out of a couple of paint stirring sticks and a stuffed bunny rabbit that when you pushed it would sing songs. And I crucified it. And instead of INRI or INRI across the top, I just put irony and had it sitting there for Easter. I think I still have that bunny somewhere here. So maybe we can get a picture of it and post it.
I'll upgrade your cross, make it real crafty. Ryan P says, how much money do we have to give to RFR to get Jimmy to retire? Go fuck yourself, you're gay homie. Retire, I don't know if I can retire, but go purely into the background for the rest of the rest of the year, you can buy my silence. I'd say $250,000 to them and $250,000 to me, because I still got to pay bills. So a cool $500,000, and you won't hear from me for the rest of the year. My silence can be bought.
I'll make the same deal. You give me $250,000, I will shut up for 1 year.
That might cost us $250,000. you need to mirror it. It's not that bad. We don't make $250,000, but I don't make
$250,000 anywhere ever. I mean, I was like, man, if somebody wants to give me $250,000 to shut up for a year, you know what I'll do with that year? I'll write like 10 books and I will record and have 10 years worth of videos ready to go for all the stuff and there's just going to be a stream of them coming out. So when the year's over with, I'll be $250,000. Well, I won't be richer. I'll be less in debt.
See, when I was saying give me $250,000, I was really saying the channel, and then you're like, give it, and I'm like, well, hang on, Matt, have them pay us too, a mirrored donation.
$4.99 from Nikki Doll. Happy birthday, Matt. Love you. Thank you so much. And thanks for the cake that I can actually look at and not be a terrible diabetic about.
It's your birthday. Be a terrible diabetic. Puffy Cloud.
I've got my chocolate right here. I'm going to eat a piece here in just a minute.
Hell yeah. Puffy Cloud says, Gashland born 66, Gladstone raised, represent, and happy birthday, Matt. Love you and proud too. Gashland sounds like a slur that somebody would have made up to describe a gathering of women in the 60s. So
you did not have to go there at all. There's just a sweet person who happened. So Kansas City, Missouri, the only Kansas City that matters. That Kansas stuff is crap. There's an area of Kansas City, Missouri called Gladstone. I was born at North Kansas City Hospital. I lived in Gladstone for a while. I also lived out in Liberty Kearney area for a while as well. But I went to Gashland Baptist Church, which is, right there in Gladstone. And so, yeah.
You act like I could have ignored that. What if somebody had come on here and they'd said, hey, I'm from Moistville, would you have ignored that? Gashland is such a harsh word.
Yeah, I've never looked at that word in my entire life and thought that.
Oh, okay.
And I'm from there.
I wonder why I've picked that up as I feel like I know that word more than even like getting a gash on my hand or whatever.
I'm pretty sure right now between you saying gash and moist, there are some people who have turned off the channel now and won't be watching anymore.
Yeah, well, certainly that will have locked it in. I realize though it's the amount of British media I consume will be why that word is more
I'm going to read the next one with my mouth full of chocolate.
I'll do it. Or you can, but do you want to? It's a long one.
No, I'll go.
Okay.
$20 from Pearl Anna 1. Happy birthday, Matt. You awesome human being. The way you and Jimmy cared about Dinah warmed my heart, and I hope everyone will follow in your footsteps and have your empathy. Y'all in the line make this world a bit more positive. Thank you a tunch. A tunch? Thank you a bunch.
A tunch. I see her says, happy birthday, you old Messiah looking bastard.
That's right.
You need you to hit us with your best flex.
There is no flex. I mean, these arms have nothing of substance. They do have less fat, so they might look like, but there's no, me big. But there you go. There's your $20 flex.
I'm genetically lanky.
Wait till you see what the $40 flex is.
My arms get harder. They don't get bigger when I work out. It's very frustrating and definitely discourages me from working out. Anyway. Oh, I thought I sent another one. I guess I didn't. Okay. Here's some currency from Samuel Zayas. Happy birthday, Matt. I think that's Swedish krona.
Thank you.
This one. Holy shit.
What the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
Okay. I have a mouthful of chocolate. You read this one and I'll just sit here in awe.
400 from one and only Smithy, hoping for a good ROI, gentlemen. Spread that word of education, science, and logic as far as you can. Happy birthday, Matt. I promise to not live up to that.
So, huge thank you. I'm sorry that I stuffed my mouth with chocolate right before yours came in. I hope you see a good return on this investment as well, because I've been doing this stuff for many years now. I think December 2004 was the first time I called in, and March 2005 is when I started hosting these types of shows regularly. And so now in 2024, that'd be 19 years last month that I've been hosting shows like this. And as I pointed out the other day, some weirdness happened on some Facebook forum. Over the span of 2 days, there were 2 different threads that were started with people trying to talk about me. And, oh, here's something that happened years ago. What's the story? And I jumped in and was like, what would you like to know? Because rather than going out to an internet forum and trying to get the gossip on something that happened 4 or 5 years ago, I'm happy to just answer questions because the rumor mill is awful. And I posted something along the lines of, I hope most of you never find out what it's like to just stumble upon groups of people talking about, is there a problem with you and what do you like? And, you know, all this other stuff that when they could just ask, like you, and for it to be about weird stuff. Like, Art and I have been together for, I think it's coming up on 3 years.
Been a long time.
It has to be, it'll be three years in June. That we've been together, and you know, in that 3 years, the attacks on me have changed, and now it's attacks of, oh, you're gay, homie, or you know, constantly trying to attack me by attacking her. It's wild, and I'm not famous. I'm not a big name public figure, but I have just enough notoriety that I come under attack, and I'm fine with it because all I care about is the mission. My personal YouTube channel, which is technically monetized, but I've never made a penny from it because we haven't finished doing the paperwork. I need to do that because there's money sitting there waiting for me, and I need that money because this is not me advertising, but there's less money coming into my personal Patreon than there was 7 or 8 years ago. You can all run over there and become dollar subscribers or whatever. That wasn't the point of this. The point is that anybody who views a donation like this as an investment in the line and what the line is doing, thank you for understanding, because you just gave $400. That $400 is not coming directly to me. I'm not getting all of it. I get some part of it or whatever else. But to recognize that what we're actually trying to do here is what I've been doing for the last 19 years or so, to try to build some semblance of a community where we can actually educate people, where we can help people, where we can take calls from someone like Dinah and direct them to resources, and then take calls from dipshits that don't know what the heck they're talking about, and hopefully find a better way to educate and inform people about stuff. So I greatly appreciate your contribution and the fact that you get it.
Oh yeah. Now I wish I hadn't made my joke.
Well,
it's all good.
My gash is moist.
That's right. Regato says, happy birthday, Matt. It was great meeting you in Tampa. By the way, I checked and they still have not found the real tomb of Jesus. Wonder if the angel Moroni dropped it on his way to New York. Well, that's if he went back to New York, or where the original hill of Cumorah was before he teleported it to New York. We'll have to, it remains to be seen.
$50 from Bill Svensson. Thank you, Bill. And thanks for making it easy.
Dade Murphy sends $5. With Jimmy's shirt is awesome, but Matt's is dope as fuck. Look, Dade, I watch your stuff. I feel we've become a sort of anonymous type of friends who don't really know each other. But I'm aware from the amount of content of you that you do cover that Matt's kind of your favorite. And it hurts, but it's fine. You know, whatever.
You know what's funny is a little while ago when we started on these super chats, Jimmy was saying, hey, from this point on, it's going to be $10 and up only. But he took Dade's just so that he could, get a little sympathy.
Dade's $5 came in before establishing the $10, for the record. It was $10 new ones from here forward, but the existing 5s.
I haven't looked at this thing, so I don't know how many we have. $30 from Fate of Silver. Thanks for all you guys do. Thank you, Fate. I am a former Southern Baptist and still working through deconstructing what I was indoctrinated with. This show really helps me to work through it all. It's insane what I used to believe. Me too. And I don't even think that I was the best example of Southern Baptist beliefs either. When people ask me, did I accept evolution? I don't remember a time when I didn't. I think that my view is that my folks didn't really talk about it. My church didn't really preach about it. And so it was just, the science was correct. And so was whatever God did and however he did it. And it is a position where you're basically encouraged not to think about it so that you don't see the problem.
Yeah. $4.99 from Coffee Mom. When Mike started talking, I said, this is bong rip theology. 10 minutes later, Matt bong hits.
Which is, I'm going to bong rip later.
Yeah.
And probably have some really stupid conversations. I'm not going to have them in front of all of you. I got no problem with people enjoying themselves, and I don't have a problem with speculative theology, or let's do another interpretation of this, or let's have a discussion about, who would win in a fight between, Superman and Black Adam. I actually don't care about that, but you could do that.
Matt's fine when he's high. I've been around it. It's not that bad.
When we're doing a call-in show where we live in a world where the overwhelming majority of people believe something, I don't need to have a conversation with the one-off theology taking up time on the show.
Yeah.
We want things that are largely representative so that people listening can relate. Now, if it turns out there's a whole bunch of people out there that really agreed with, what Mike had to say, and they're like, no, Matt, you didn't give him enough time. I think Genesis 1 is about you. Well, send me an email, and if enough of you are there, we'll try it again.
I'd almost take it if it was at least complete. What I get annoyed with is people have these bong rips and then they go, I'm going to call in and try and work this out live. It's like, God damn. The only thing Matt does when he's high that is a little silly is Matt's ability to recall how many times he's told a story goes away when he's high. That's the only thing I'd say is a little silly.
Oh, that's true when I'm not high.
It's way worse when you're high. I'm saying I've known you for a couple of years now. When you're high, it's like, bro, you told me this story yesterday. But Matt's a good storyteller, so it's not really a problem. Max D says, happy birthday, Matt. Thank you, Jimmy, and the whole Line team for all you do. Oh, actually, one other silly thing you do. It's not silly, actually. I think I adopted it into my own highness. Is sometimes you'll recognize when you're high that you're really high, and you'll just ask to exit the conversation. Basically, you don't say it like that, but you'll just be like, you'll be talking, be like, I just realized I'm really high, so I'm gonna sit back. You'll say that, and then just sit back in your chair. And yeah,
the thing is, I genuinely like my brain when it's working, so I don't like to be drunk or high around other people.
Yeah.
And I also, if I'm high or drunk or whatever, I feel like I've missed things or parts of the conversation I didn't get. I want to experience all things about life. So the only time I'm, I like being high is for like pain management stuff, because I was getting an hour and a half sleep, and I have nerve damage because of the diabetes, where basically from the edge of my hand in all the way to almost the midpoint is just constantly numb. I can't play guitar the way I used to. I can't do card tricks the way I used to. I don't sleep as well as I used to. And so, I'll just take that. But if I'm, going to go do an event or a convention or whatever else, I want my brain to be working. And I genuinely hate when it's not, unless I'm just here at my house in my chair with Arden and maybe a friend or two, watching some stupid stuff on TV or having some fun conversation. Then I don't mind how stupid I look.
It's funny how, to everybody who's watching, the chair that you're sitting in for the last however long it's been will be the chair they think of when we're just talking about Matt and his chair. But to everyone who knows Matt, There is a different chair, and that is the Matt chair. We all associate it with, it'll be part of whatever ritual happens when Matt passes away. I think we'll bring the chair and burn it in effigy or something.
Plus, actually, so J Mike got to sit in my chair when he was over playing guitar. And I did a video chat with Arden when I was in Tampa. I called her too many times, but it's like, oh, I just had this idea. I need to run it by somebody. And so Arden's the first person I run all my ideas by now. And so I'd call and I was like, hey, I just thought of this. What do you think? And she'd tell me. And I was like, why are you sitting in my chair?
She just missed you, man. Wants the smell.
The cat sits in it too.
Yeah.
Is this me or you?
Who cares?
$10 from Sid Thames or Thames.
I think so.
$10. Noah's flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, Moses, Exodus, and Elijah's failed prophecies led me to believe that the Bible's primitive misunderstandings of reality, mind control frameworks, and deceptions. I think that's not an unreasonable conclusion to reach, although I'd be slightly cautious about adopting a burden of proof. But I think you can justify this a bit, and I've kind of referenced a similar thing.
I, as a previous photographer, appreciate a well-lit headshot. Well done. I don't know if you did it yourself or what, but it's a good photo.
I'm almost just live streaming.
Yeah. Well, it was like, it was cool because it was still lit, but it was still Rembrandt style, just lighter contrast. Anyway, whatever. No one cares. Steve Mao, I got cookies rocks. That's true.
That is like fact. Like
facts.
Another $10 from Sid. Ran out of space. Jimmy, go fuck yourself. And Matt, you're gay, homie. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah. Sid, tell me in the chat whether you did the photo or not in live chat. Wingaling Dragon says, my workplace put a window decal on the front door saying Happy Resurrection Day. It's a private company, but it makes me feel threatened, and people at work seem emboldened to tell me that gay people are wrong. Well, I would write a company-wide memo saying that you were very uncomfortable with any sort of sign posted on the door referencing the joy of any type of erection. I don't know what actually to tell you. That sucks. Wherever you work.
Cross out the RE and put an I in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Happy Insurrection Day.
I think that's a couple months ago. Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. 50 cookies. You don't need to give us money.
No. Now,
to refund it. I'm gonna send you merch or something. Stop doing this, cookies. We would highlight any message that you would tell us to. Don't.
Yes. We heart you to pieces, cookies. Now I got to find a way to get you $50 or $50 worth of something right away. But thank you so much. Here's a bribe for more mini golf. Just kidding. Actually, we haven't played much in a little while. I still enjoy it. It's just we got distracted by a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, let's do mini golf. You don't have to bribe me for that. Have a great birthday, Matt. All of us will hang out soon. I hope so. And thank you so much for all the stuff that you do. Yeah.
Stop giving us money, cookies. Everybody else give us money except for mods. Yes. But cookies especially no. What the fuck?
If you're volunteering and doing stuff to help us. Yeah.
Yeah. $20 from Wingaling Dragon. This morning I received an email from CEO saying he is risen. May the spirit of hope this resurrection day fill your life with joy, love, and joy. God bless you always. Adding John 11:25-26. Any advice on what to do or not do? What state is this? Jesus.
Email from the CEO. So no, it's a private company. There's probably nothing you can do. If there is an HR department, you can go to HR and say, I'm uncomfortable with the CEO expressing his personal religious views that may conflict with my religious views. It makes me feel as if this isn't necessarily a safe workspace for anybody who might not agree with his religious views, but you are then taking a risk. And so there are anonymous or resources you can go to outside of there, like Americans United for Separation of Church and State, things like that. There are organizations like the Freedom from Religion Foundation. But at the end of the day, especially if it's a smaller company, somebody's going to know or find out or whatever else, and you are potentially putting your employment at risk. You have to decide, does it bother you enough that you're willing to actually do something on behalf of it, including possibly losing your job? And if not, then you just have to recognize that, especially as a private company, CEO of a private company can send almost whatever he wants to whoever he wants, whenever. And by the way, is that Trogdor the Burninator as your avatar up there? I think it is.
Richard T says, happy birthday, Matt. Is it really on Easter? That's interesting.
It's on Easter this year. My birthday stays in the same place. Easter moves around every few years. Easter and my birthday are the same.
How often? How many times has it been? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's every 6 years or 7 years, something like that.
Okay. Works out routinely that way. That's cool.
How often is Easter on March 31st? I'm looking it up.
Cool. In the meantime, I'll read this. $10 from Jungle. Happy birthday, Matt. My birthday recently passed, and I got a birthday letter from my mom. It was great and suddenly terrible because regardless of my good qualities, I'm not a Christian. That fucking sucks. I feel all too much for that. That does suck. Such a silly, arbitrary thing. Between
1900 and 1999, so in that century, it fell on March 31st. Oh, let's just do it just in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So in 1969, it was April 6th. So it's happened on my birthday. Oh, it's not even close to every 6 or 8 years, whatever. Looks like 1991.
Wow.
And 2013. And this year. So this is 3 times in my life that my birthday has fallen on Easter.
And so it's not a pattern that is repeated. Like it's not every, because that first one wasn't that 22 years, the first one?
Yeah.
And then wow. Cool. I never bothered to look up how they evaluate it all. I know
See, Easter's always on a Sunday, and my birthday's only going to fall on a Sunday once every 7 years.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not quite 7 years because of leap years. And then because it moves around, it's hit it at least 3 times in my life.
That's cool. That's cool. Dean G says, from one 55-year-old curmudgeon to another, happy birthday, Matt.
Thank you so much.
I wouldn't describe you as a curmudgeon. I think that's the perception they get from calls, but you're a happier person than me, and I'm not a curmudgeon. Maybe I am. I don't fucking know.
I would say that if somebody said, who's more of a curmudgeon, Matt or Jimmy? I don't know that I could answer the question.
I think you could answer honestly that it's me, but I think that most people would guess wrong. You really think it's tough?
I would think we're similarly curmudgeonly.
Okay.
But
I find that my cynicism and pessimism sometimes gets to levels if I have to work on it in therapy. And I've not seen that from you, but I don't know. I don't ask you what you're working on in therapy.
Maybe I should be working on therapy. I'm just not.
Mine gets pretty bad.
$20.
Man. Yeah.
$20 from Elizabeth Chris. Thank you so much, because March birthdays are the best. True.
Good old Liz Chris. Justin Kramer says, how do you respond to microaggressions such as I'll pray for you, God loves you? Is your response different if it comes from a family member or someone who knows you're an atheist? I usually make a joke at this point and move on, but I don't interact with people in real life that often anymore. But usually I'll be like, I'll pray for you. I'll be like, can I exchange that for cash? I was just asking for cash this year. No prayers. Something like that.
I remember for a while, when they'd say, I'll pray for you, I'd say, well, I'll think for you. Yeah. And then I decided, nah, because most of the time when people are saying, I'll pray for you, they're just desperate to say something nice and thoughtful, and they don't know what it is. And just as a matter of like social indoctrination, some people will say, I'll pray for you, or God loves you, even if they're not religious at all. Neil deGrasse Tyson and I had a conversation once about when he said Godspeed to some astronauts, and some really dipshitty atheists decided to give him grief over it. It's one of the reasons why he doesn't tend to call himself an atheist in public very often. And without going into the whole of the conversation, there's a tradition of saying stuff like that. Not everything somebody says, even if it's couched in religious language, is a testimony on their half of that they believe in God or whatever. Yeah. And so nowadays, when somebody says, have a blessed day or God bless you, I tend to just kind of mumble, I doubt it. And if they hear me, it's no big deal because we can both kind of smile because I'm not starting an argument or anything else. They can take it as, well, I'm having a rough day or I don't believe or whatever. It doesn't matter. A lot of times it's just nod and move on.
Yep. Yeah, it's I guess I do what most people in any group do in response to microaggressions. I ignore it in the instance, but then I try to, in my life, work toward ending them in general. But I think that's pretty common. 1999 from Tess. Thank you, Tess.
$10. Californian, I've been told. From Jessica Gallagher. Happy birthday, Matt and Jimmy. My relationship with my dad has been strained for the past 12 years since he found out I'm an atheist. I like the idea of trading books with him. Any recommendations? Yeah, actually, one of the first books that I tend to recommend for just being approachable. We need to get him on the show. Guy P. Harrison has written a number of books, and one of my favorites from him is a book called 50 Reasons People Give for Believing in a God. And Guy and I actually had a conversation about this years ago on an episode of the Nonprofits where I kind of lit into his book for one of his examples that I had a problem with. But the good thing about the book is that unlike, for example, something from Dawkins, and Dawkins has some books that are probably good recommendations here as well. This one is genuinely approachable, and it's like 50 little miniature essays of here's something that happened, here's what people say. It's a really good introduction to make people think, does this sort of thing make sense?
Hell yeah. You want to hear something bananas?
As long as it's not that Gwen Stefani song.
No, it has nothing to do with this day at all. The next time that Easter Sunday will be on March 31st will be 2086.
I'll be dead, almost certainly.
I assume you would hope so. Do you want another 62 years? Because I don't. And I'm 62 years younger than you, and I don't want 62 more years.
Yeah, I don't think I want that.
No. Yeah, dramatic technological advancements. Maybe you could change the mind.
This is almost certainly the last time Easter will fall on my birthday while I'm alive.
Doesn't it make you tempted to make it a bigger deal? And then, like me, I think you would go, I could make anything a big deal if this is the arbitrary standard by which like people are like, this thing that's happening in the night sky, and it's the only time it'll happen for another billion years. And it's like, that is just the night sky every day, though. Anyway, Squibby-Doo says, hope you have a very happy birthday from me and my 4 fuzzy dogs. I often have to act like Matt and tell them, no.
That's fair.
Dexter's pretty good, except when other people come over. Then he forgets a lot, but I don't have to tell.
And of course, Julie, who's been absolutely over the top hung up on the no, you're done, to the point where at one point I asked her to stop. Sent me a birthday message that was no, you're done with 54 or something along those lines, which was funny. 10 pounds from Panther King. Listening to Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and thinking if the Nazarene gave himself to himself as a sacrifice but rose 3 days later, how exactly is that a sacrifice? He just took the weekend off, didn't he? Yes.
Yeah.
I've done an entire video on how there is no sacrifice in this story. And while I can't prove what I would actually do, if somebody came to me and guaranteed that if they tortured and killed me and I stayed dead forever, that would end hunger and poverty on earth forever, I would do it. Can't prove it, but I would.
I will say I find this parallel to what we were talking about earlier. I find it so fucking annoying and condescending for people to tell others to have faith on the basis of a story where, if true, they didn't have to have any faith. That kind of shit drives me crazy. Like Mormons who believe that their prophet talks literally directly to God. Well, your prophet literally has zero faith then. So why should you listen to him about, that faith should be good enough for you when it isn't for him? Whatever. Anyway, Beretta 9mm says, happy birthday, Matt. Any thoughts from either of you on the very controversial topic of banned Kinder Surprise? Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Love the shirt. I don't care about Kinder Surprise, but if it's a government overreach, generally I am for letting people do whatever they want unless it's showing that it's hurting people. So if they actually were hurting kids and it was happening enough, then it's probably the right move. If it wasn't hurting kids and it was just precautionary, I'd say we should leave parents to...
Have they banned them again?
I guess. I know they had in the past for their little toy surprises. I don't know if they're banned.
Yeah, but I think we got past that because I've been seeing Kinder Eggs for quite a while now.
Maybe it's just a Texas thing. We added now inside your... you actually get ammo inside your Kinder Surprises in Texas.
Sweet.
Hell yeah.
$10 from Slackback. I tried that random Bible verse thing. This is what I got. Genesis 10:7. The sons of Cush, and the sons of Rama, Sheba. Yeah. What the fuck do I make of that? Just acknowledge that it was very important to keep records of, who we think was the parent of whom.
Yeah. I would say, I wish I could be in a church where somebody tells you to do that exercise again, because I would ask why then so many random verse databases omit verses like this one. Because if you go to actual online biblical databases, they purposefully only include ones that have some sort of ability to turn into something. They omit all the genealogy and all that kind of shit. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. Almost an admission. $20 from Dade Murphy. I love you, Jimmy. You know that. Happy birthday, Matt. Dade, I wasn't saying you don't love me. I'm just saying that clearly you love Matt more. And that's fine. That's allowed. It just hurts.
It's wise.
It's fine. I don't care.
$10 that said, Jimmy, it's a photo of Tessa Farmiga. Oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher that. I just think she's the prettiest person in the world. So, not only did they not take that picture, but it's not even them.
Do you know what's so funny is I think we maybe have had this conversation before, but when I first saw the photo, I was like, man, this looks exactly like, and I don't know if I should name drop the person, but the person I took classes to learn how to do headshots from is a celebrity headshot photographer. And I was like, this looks exactly like his work. Like it might seem arbitrary to other people, but now that you've told me that it is this celebrity, it would not surprise me at all to find out it literally is his work. So anyway, just a little fun, interesting thing. $10 from Beretta 9mm. Another 10 buckaroos to the show to show the appreciation for the mods, the screeners, and the producers. Y'all the best. Here's a question as an atheist. Can I enjoy religious celebrations with theists? How? Yeah, get drunk. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't really. Yeah. If they're fun things and traditional things and nobody's there asking you to behave as though you believe, Jewish weddings are really fun. I want to be up on the chair. I don't know of any way I'll ever get to be up on the chair, but it looks fun. Yeah, go off, have fun, do whatever you want. Any thoughts on that one?
No.
Yeah. Matt also would like to be on the chair one time. This is
I missed it.
One.
I missed the whole thing because I was distracted. But $10 from Biker Nurse Ratchet. Much love to both of you. I appreciate how you made my deconstruction so easy. You set me free. You set yourself free. I try to be as insightful as you guys when I share my non-belief with others who ask. Awesome. Try to be better than us. Because
absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. And a huge thank you to everybody for all the birthday contributions and comments and everything else. Despite what some people think, I don't just live to hear myself talk. And I'm not oblivious to what people think about me. The way I do things is not always everybody's cup of tea. And so I saw somebody ask before we started it, is Matt going to be in Zen mode today? No. I do Zen mode on the shows sometimes because people think that I lack the willpower to not get excited or yell or cuss at somebody. I absolutely have the willpower to do it. I sometimes think it's the right thing to do. I may be wrong. I know that my style isn't everybody's style. There's plenty of people who don't like the way I do things. That, let's just do it, more kindly and everything else. And that's great. If you think you know and have a more effective way of doing shows than I do, great. Go do the shows, put the data together, and you can even prove me wrong and potentially change my mind. But I don't give the slightest fuck about what some armchair quarterback that's never done even half the shit that I've done over the last 19 plus years thinks a better way is. I thought I had a better way. I've tried things different ways. I've tried things many different ways. Some things aren't good for the show. And I'm not here just to create an entertaining show. But if the show's not entertaining, the good content that we're trying to produce to teach people doesn't get seen by as many people.
Yeah.
So the getting heated on occasion, it's not for effect. It's me being genuine. It's just, I don't feel the need to restrain myself, because if I can get a thought out to 100,000 people by being slightly more animated than somebody else thinks is right, and they get 10 viewers, or they get it out to 50 people, or they only get it out to 500 atheists who all already agree with them, then I think what I've done is potentially more effective. I'm not oblivious to how this stuff goes. And so more than anything, I appreciate the people who not only appreciate how I do it, but understand that even though they would do it differently, and I don't remotely pretend that my way is the right way or that I always do it right. I fuck up all the time. I make mistakes. I try to correct for them. I'll apologize. I made mistakes today on the show. At least one of them I corrected right off the bat, did an apology to another person, a person who I will not apologize to for the other aspects of that conversation because they were right and justified. Setting aside the tone policing, setting aside people thinking, I really wish Matt would do it a different way. Awesome. Tell me where I'm wrong. Because if I'm not wrong, then the people who are complaining are only talking about style over substance. And as long as the substance is there, then anybody that I don't actually reach personally in having conversations in the show might be reached by somebody else doing the exact same thing in a different way, in a better way. But they might not have been reachable at all if they hadn't first kind of been smacked into paying attention. Because so many of the theists, including, I spoke to quite a few theists this weekend, most of them genuinely awesome people. Some of them have in their head this idea that God has given me over to a reprobate mind. I am intellectually inferior. I am underinformed on these issues. I am in love with my sin. They have a parade of rationalizations to give them a false sense of superiority. They're the chosen one. They are God's special creation, and God loves them. And even though they don't understand it and they can't explain it and they can't speak publicly, they need an Aaron to back them up as Moses. They know that they're right. I don't know that I'm right. I'm confident that I have the right position on a number of things. I am confident that I have good ideas in some areas. And I am confident that if anybody can come up and show me where I am actually factually incorrect, I will change my mind. You know how I know that? Because I've done it repeatedly. And when this is frustration, when there's people who call in and we ask a question, I'm not asking a question because I'm laying a trap. I'm asking a question because I've done this for a while and I know where the conversation needs to go to hopefully get that person or the other person over here who thinks just like them but isn't under fire on the show to think about it and try a different direction. And when you watch, and you watch how they refuse to answer the question that they're asked over and over and over again, we all get to see firsthand the protective defensive mechanisms that religions imbue a mind with to defend that mind virus from the inoculation. And every time we expose that, somebody else has an opportunity to see it, take an inventory of their own mind, and reconsider whether or not they actually have a good reason, or if maybe there's reason to think they've been wrong. And you get to callers like today, where Dinah's trying to help her kids, and another caller is saying, you know what, I asked God, and God's not answering me. God's never answered me. And yet I stood there in church and prayed and praised and felt the air quotes, glory of the Lord right alongside everybody else. And yet as soon as I asked God, God, can you help me? Can you tell me? Can you give me what I need to say so that I understand, so that I know this isn't a fiction, so that I know that I'm not deluding myself? Nothing happens. Because God works in mysterious ways, almost as if he doesn't exist at all. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but for those of you who tuned in to have whatever tea I'm serving today, thank you for making my birthday absolutely wonderful. Thank you to Jimmy and to all of our moderators and everybody else. Jimmy, what other we got coming up? I know you got announcements and stuff, and wrap it up.
Yeah, a couple quick things. So, as far as shows go, tomorrow is Skeptalk with Gutsick Gibbon and Reason to Doubt. Tuesday, the Chewed Gum original duo, if we can already call them that, Alyssa and Eve will be back on Chewed Gum. Wednesday, Matt, do you remember who you have on? It's Eve. Eve's actually coming back to be on with Matt this Wednesday.
Yes.
And Dr. Ben and Arden will be holding down the Transatlantic Call-In show on Thursday. So something that I talked about a little bit on Friday and has become more evident since then, and the likely cause has become more likely since then based on what has happened, that I'm conflicted about talking about, because it almost seems like talking about it could say like, hey, we're noticing it's working, and might encourage people to do more. Anyway, have to talk about it anyway. Virtually every episode we are doing now is getting demonetized. Now, that said, demonetized doesn't mean we don't get the money from the super chats, but it unfortunately does mean that it lowers reach and it lowers ad revenue, which is the main source of revenue that we have on this channel. And this channel is expensive. Plus we do pay the host and the producers here. So basically, at first it was, what is the problem? Is it that there is a keyword or something that is throwing things off? And while that's not eliminated still as a possibility, it's eliminated as it's not very likely, because now it is noticeable that most of the time the demonetization is happening well after. So for example, Friday's episode the demonetization happened after about 16,000 views and after about 24 hours, and then viewership dropped off of a cliff, and therefore our main source of income. In fact, it was funny because on Friday night, I was messaging Matt and Arden going, I don't know why they liked Eve and I specifically as a duo, but for some reason that episode is doing as well as a lot of our really popular shows. And usually I'm used to like a one-off Cause I Wanna being like, yeah, you got a couple thousand views or whatever. And so it was doing actually incredibly, and then dropped off of a cliff. So basically what I'm asking is a few things, because we are dealing with that issue, and I'm hoping that because it is every time, and it's now been at least the last 20 episodes or so, I think is what we're up to the point that now they're reporting older episodes, and I'm having to go back and ask for those for review, and it does affect things on the algorithm side and in the interim. I'm hoping that this means that soon I can meet with our YouTube rep and we can get some sort of thing like they have on TikTok, where we're actually whitelisted, where if people report us, it triggers a manual review, but not a demonetization. I don't know if that's even a tool here. I don't know if we'll get that. In the meantime, now I am going to ask for things like click subscribe, turn on the notification bell. We never push that. And if you don't believe me, look at how many subscribers we have. We have 115,000. Go look at our daily numbers on Social Blade and views and stuff. We perform like a channel that has 500,000 subscribers, not like a channel with 115,000, because we never ask you to subscribe, but not never, but we don't really push it. Unfortunately now, powers that be my theory is that there is a group of people, and this has happened in the past. It's probably some little group of dipshits with a Discord server are purposefully reporting, and it could be a few people who are VPN swapping to change their IP address. It could be several people. It's rarely only one or two people that can have such an effect. So algorithm stuff, like, subscribe, and all of that. If in the past you have considered becoming a patron, first of all, if you become a patron right now, 15 minutes from now, and Matt's going to hope that I shut up soon so he can go get a drink or something between 15 minutes from now, Matt will be joining you all on Zoom. You'll actually, as your first thing, get to hang out there. You'll be added to the Discord, which we're doing more and more all the time. And that's going up. And we're going to be adding more and more patron exclusive content, including as the patronage grows. Matt and I are going to start watching terrible Christian movies together. I don't know if he remembers that we talked about that months ago, but yeah, we did. Yeah, cool. Yeah. We're going to start finally doing that.
Even if I didn't remember, I'd say yes.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to have to have a chat afterward and be like, "Dude, stop volunteering me for stuff." But anyway, if you can go over there, pick a tier, pick one you support. I'm about to add the chewed gum tier as well, but there are several different tiers. As far as how we pay out to the host, everybody gets a piece of all of it. So if you support Chewed Gum, it's or you're like, oh, I don't want to support Matt's show if it doesn't also support Chewed Gum. Everything supports everything. You just get a little bit of extra Discord privileges if you are in one versus the other. We did that on purpose because basically Matt and I knew we would be, and I'm grouping us together on purpose to make it sound like I'm on his level. Matt and I knew we would be the most popular, and we didn't want everybody supporting just us, where it would be like, now everybody else gets fucked over. So it is.
This isn't the first time this has happened either.
Yeah.
This is so. While there are people who will tell you that in other places, I was some tyrannical blah 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 who wouldn't let anybody on the microphone and blah. When Pangburn started booking me to do events with Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and others, I agreed, and I agreed on the condition that we would also do events where we platformed other people who I thought should have bigger audiences. And that's why we did events with Sarah Hayter, Tracy Harris, and others that we were doing. Similarly, I say, if you've got a tiny podcast, if you're an atheist, YouTuber podcast with almost no viewers, I will probably say yes to come on do an interview, because all I want to do is let's get more voices. Let's, start encouraging more stuff. And every time Jimmy's come to me and said, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, does it build the line and proceed on mission? You bet. And we have, like, genuinely, I think that we have some of the most impressive and awesome people working here on the line. I watch. Like, I don't watch everything all the time, but I watch the other shows quite a lot. And people will notice, because I'll just chime in and chat every now and then. Somebody like, oh, Matt's here. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't trying to draw attention. I was here, but they said something so interesting. I want to actually say something. I love this place.
Yeah. So patreon.com/calltheline. Go check that out. Please do sign up if you can support. It's also led to, and you'll be seeing the announcements this month, we've just added 4 people to be official recurring hosts. They're people you've seen before, but now they're not guests. They're full-on hosts, and all of that stuff helps. And honestly, if we could get, and I'll just set the number now, we're only at like 500 to 600 patrons. This is going to sound crazy when I say how much we would need to do, but the math works out. If we got to 2,500 patrons, and remember, there's like 15 to 16 people who work here now. We pay producers and stuff, and a tremendous amount of the money goes back into the line, into expanding, into being able to bring more people on. And we'll go to convention stuff. If we got up to 2,500 patrons, I can't turn off monetization completely or it will fuck us. But I would take every single episode down to the minimum ads, which basically means probably an ad at the beginning and probably an ad at the end. If we literally, I'm not kidding, if we don't do that, it'll take our algorithm down, and then YouTube will put them anyway because YouTube has a minimum amount of monetization. It was why Matt, I think, eventually got talked into like, let's get your monetization turned on, because if you don't take it, YouTube will take it anyway. Yeah, it's so that's all I have to say about that. It sucks. It really it does suck. But I will, like I said, be meeting with the rep and everything. But honestly, whatever the rep says, the ideal situation would be we just don't even have to worry about that in the future. So that's why I'm going to promote Patreon anyway. And if we ever get up to 2,500, boom, whole channel will go down to minimum monetization requirements to stay algorithmically relevant. But we'll take ads off everything. Mid rolls, fuck mid rolls. We get up to 2,500 subscribers. I don't need mid rolls unless YouTube forces me. That's it. That's all I got for y'all. Thanks for watching. Come back here tomorrow and we'll see everybody for Patreon, for the Patreon Zoom, who's coming to that here in 11 minutes. You still got time. We'll put the link in the Discord and on the Patreon page. Starting next week, we will have the Sunday show After Dark starting at 7 o'clock. We'll talk about it more next week, I'm sure, but starting at 7 o'clock, that'll be next week. I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm just going to love you, baby. And I'm only going to do one scroll of this time. Matt certainly will want at least a pee break. We're not going to do a long chat on this one. But thank you.
Yes, I definitely need to pee before I do another thing.
Hell yeah. These are our top tier patrons. We thank them very, very much. Right at the highest. These are our patron producers. Thank you all so much. We'll see you soon.